I am the protagonist template. Invincible chapter 541 to 560. 541. Completion. The sun and the moon. Brahma will destroy the world. Brilliant crystal. The crystal formed by the brilliance of Necrozma's source, containing incredible power. Glorious crystal. For a long time, Baizi resisted the almost instinctive desire to devour, and turned his head, looked at the silent Necrozma and said with a smile, "What are you waiting for, Necrozma? Go and retrieve what belongs to you. Own strength. Baizi, you are qualified to share with me." Necrozma's deep telepathy echoed in the night sky at the top of the Metropolis Tower. For some reason, Baizi seems to be able to understand its sincerity at this moment. Necrozma is not a false temptation, but a sincere invitation to share this experience from his own life with him. On the power, strength that has been dislodged. This, light. Baizi was silent. The suffering Necrozma suffered because of this. He felt the same way not long ago, and the uncontrollable longing stimulated his mind from time to time. But, for him, the suffering he felt was only a moment, and that desire was at best a temptation. But for Necrozma, power is forcibly stripped from its body, and that desire for integrity is by no means comparable to Baizi. And this pain caused by this, it has endured for hundreds of years. Now, the hope of being whole again and free from suffering is at hand. To be in another place, in all fairness, I am afraid it is difficult for Baizi to achieve the patience and restraint of Necrozma, and even invite others to share the strength that complements himself. Even if this person is kind to himself. Baizi's eyes were turbulent, although there was no hypocritical touch, but the corners of his mouth were still slightly raised subconsciously. No need. He shook his head and smiled. Necrozma, we are already partners. From now on, your strength is my strength. Go and complete yourself and make yourself stronger. When I want to call this when it comes to power, I think you will use it generously, right? Necrozma didn't say anything else. After taking a deep look at Baizi, he came to the crystal. Painted, pictures and texts flashed for a while. Immediately, a stream of light was pulled out from the crystal, and the constant Necrozma was absorbed into the body. Its dark body did not shine at all under the white light, just like a day. The solid black hole devours the approaching light instantly. The glorious crystal was visible to the naked eye, thinning and shrinking, until it turned into the last ray of light and was swallowed up by Necrozma, completely disappearing. After waiting for a while, Necrozma's shining, painted, parts calmed down. Followed. A deep coercion was instantly transmitted, sweeping across the entire ultimate world. The air suddenly sank. There was even a faint line of snowflakes that resembled a TV disconnection. The difference was only for a moment, and soon, that coercion was quickly restrained by Necrozma. Who tilde? Baizi breathed a sigh of relief, glanced at Necrozma with a little curiosity, and asked at the same time. Race. Necrozma, general form, dusk mane, dawn wings, ultimate form. Attribute. Super energy. Characteristic. Prism armor, brain core power, ultimate form. Level. Level 1 God limit, level 119 to 120, quasi-creation level, unfinished. Potential. Quasi-creation level. Status. Good, yet to be completed. 1. Not finished. Yet to be finished. How is it? Baizi's eyes flashed. This source of brilliance is obviously useful. At the very least, Necrozma has made up for the lack of origin, and the level has jumped to the same level as the previous Dark Super Dream. It still hasn't surpassed the first level God, but it has improved. One step. Baizi originally thought that Necrozma, who complemented the radiance of the source, might unlock the ultimate form. Now, it doesn't seem to work. But, according to the game, Necrozma, who wants to successfully transform into his ultimate form, is the original form of the Shining God. It is necessary for Necrozma to obtain the Sun and Moon God, that is, Solgaleo or Lunara, to merge into either of the Dusk Mane, or Wings of Dawn, form. Then carry the exclusive, ultimate necros Z, and pass the ultimate burst to succeed. Then it needs to be completed. ... Ask for flowers. Is it the power of the sun and moon gods, Solgaleo and Lunara? Between thoughts. Necrozma's low telepathy followed. The strength has basically returned, but there are still 2 special lights missing, which make my state unable to return to fullness. Saying that, Necrozma made a random swipe at the void beside him. The tip of the claws flickered slightly. Immediately. Sizzle, _. Accompanied by the sound of hot oil being splashed and the brocade shattering, the void was cut into several cracks like a layer of butter. The hot breath seemed to warm the air a lot. Horrible heat. Baizi's heart is dark. At the same time, I can't help but think of the introduction of the ultimate Necrozma by Shinbeizong. The body temperature is as high as 6000, and the place where the sharp claws pass will be burned to melt by the high temperature. Point 0. All kinds of thoughts flashed across, and Baizi turned his attention to Necrozma again. What's missing is the light of Solgaleo and Lunara. Yes. Necrozma's painted eyes flashed for a moment, before nodding. Then, it suddenly raised its claws in the direction of the Metropolitan Tower behind it, and suddenly, in the sound of crashing, a quaint disc with a diameter of 3 meters was called by Necrozma. The manic thought power is taken in. It was a disc that resembled an altar, and at the very center of the disc was inlaid an octagonal vernite with a transparent white body and an inner pattern resembling the sun. This is... Baizi almost subconsciously used his probing ability on this thing. Next moment, his eyes suddenly lit up. One brilliant altar, carved from the most friendly glowing stone. It is the altar of the brilliant god, Necrozma, which has the function of gathering light energy. 11. Ultimate Necros Z. It can turn Necrozma into a crystal that shows its appearance after merging with Solgaleo or Lunara, and at the same time, it can transform. Photon surge. It is a special Z movement, burning the sky and destroying the world, blazing explosion. ... Begging _ 542. The ultimate commando. Misfortune comes out of your mouth, please ask. The altar of radiance, and Necrozma's exclusive Z pure crystal. Baizi raised his eyebrows. To be honest, he was really curious about what happened between the humans in the ultimate world and Necrozma. However, not to mention whether Necrozma is willing to repeat the old story, Baizi will not do this kind of thing to satisfy his curiosity by exposing people's scars, especially the scars of his own people. Think about it. He suppressed this curiosity and looked at Necrozma, who silently raised the thing in front of him. This is, for me. Gay tilde. Necrozma nodded, advancing things a little further. Then I'm welcome. Baizi smiled and thought for a while. After deducting the Necrozma exclusive Z pure crystal on the altar and putting it away, he took out the Pokeball maker again and pointed it at the altar. A photo. 4020. Ohm. The altar turned into white light and was stored. The machine hummed, and for a moment, a golden white translucent Pokeball was spit out from the back of the machine. Click tilde. Take it off, glance over. Glorious ball. It is made of a pure glowing stone altar, and its interior can simulate a light-gathering environment, which is very suitable for the survival of light-adaptive elves. Sure enough. Tossing the glowing ball in his hand, Baizi raised it and pointed it at Necrozma. Then, please give me more advice in the future tilde. Necrozma nodded and approached Baizi steadily. In front of him, let Baizi gently knock the radiance ball on top of his head. In an instant, Necrozma's entire huge crystal body turned into a red light and was directly contained in it. The elf swayed a little, and returned to calm at random. 0K, Necrozma, take it. Baizi held the glowing ball in his hand slightly, and an unstoppable smile rose on his face. Although it was a little turbulent, Necrozma finally succeeded in subduing it. And next. Hoopa's turn. Xiao Huang, wait for me. Thinking that Xiao Huang is still living in a reversed world, Baizi immediately restrained the joy on his face. I can't be in a hurry. With the power of Vibrant, Giratina should not take the initiative to hurt her. Baizi comforted himself after letting out a long breath. Immediately after Baizi put away Lai Kongzai and Kang Xiang, his mind moved, and suddenly, an ultimate hole was opened in front of him. However, after pondering for a few seconds, Baizi still closed the ultimate hole. After all, no matter what, Rusum and I did him a big favor without hesitation. It was not good to say goodbye so directly. Forget it, let's go back the same way. With a sigh, Baizi stretched his palm to Shinado. Sana tilde. With a gentle smile, Shinado gently wrapped around Baizi's outstretched left arm. Next second. The lavender hood wrapped around one person and disappeared into the sky in the blink of an eye. In the gloomy ultimate deep sea, under the reflection of the luminous coral-like crystal, the bottom of the ultimate cave opened by the blue stance energy. Wearing uniforms, but clearly standing in 2 rows of 8 people, stationed on both sides of the ultimate cave. 4 men and 1 woman on the left stand as loose as they are, full of the spirit of the army, with similar body shapes. Both men and women have short hair. From left to right, they are women, men and men. Tree Owl, Eluador, Gengar, Fiery Roaring Tiger and Desert Dragonfly. The 3 on the right are of different heights. Except for the indifferent ponytail woman at the head, standing still like an eagle, the rest, a man and a woman, a dwarf girl, and a hooded dwarf girl, were all wrapped by a virtual id wrapped up, floating in the air. Beside the ponytail woman stood a pheromone who was playing with a shiny luminous stone. And the lanky young man was playing the game of tossing his head around with a clown who was afraid of banging his head next to him. The head, of course, is the head of the Bang Head Clown. The head of the Bang Head Clown is composed of incredible sparks. Not only can the head be picked up at will, but also repeated explosions and reconversions. All 3 have their own characteristics, which are impressive. And the 3 of them were without exception, and their skin color was all that bloodless bluish white. It didn't look like a normal living person's face, it was creepy. In fact, these 3 people are indeed not the normal aborigines of the elf world. They are all descendants of the ultimate metropolis. Now, they are taken in and under the jurisdiction of Lusamanai. Together with 5 other people, they formed the most sharp and secret sword and shield under the hands of Lusamine, the ultimate special attack team. And now, they were asked to guard the ultimate cave at this end, waiting for Baizi's return. On the floating island in the extreme deep sea, there was complete silence, except for the noise made by the self-entertaining, tossing head, game between the skinny young man with purple hair and the banging clown. Ellipsis. But after playing for a while, the purple-haired youth seemed to feel a little bored. After waving his hand to let his partner, the clown with a head to play, he stepped closer to the ponytail woman. By the way, Deputy Mia, we have been waiting here for almost a whole day. When will the kid come back? This ultimate space is quite dangerous. If he is trapped somewhere, can't we just keep waiting like this? If you want me to say, no, we'll split into 2 teams. Let Captain Anna and the others continue to station a few of us, or I'll just go find that kid alone. How about that? The purple-haired youth rambled on expressing his opinions. But obviously, whether it was the pony-tailed woman named Mia, or the opposite Anna and others, no one paid him any attention. Seeing this, the purple-haired youth immediately pouted. Really, it's really tiring to be with you bunch of stuffy gourds. But I'm serious, even if you need to be stationed in the ultimate cave, there's no need for the whole team to wait here, right? What's more, I don't know why that kid died. Not finished yet. In the next second, an irresistible thought force suddenly pressed down from above, directly slapping the purple-haired youth on the ground. Just as the bang-headed clown beside him was about to make a move, he immediately followed in the footsteps of his trainer. Everyone was shocked. But then, I am sorry everyone. Accompanied by a warm voice, Baizi and Shanae duo, who were wrapped in the hood, came to the sky above everyone in the blink of an eye. After nodding to a few people, after taking a casual glance, under the control of Shinado, no one went to the ultimate hole where the stand was opened. Baizi left. The thought power suppressed by the purple-haired youth and the bang-headed clown immediately dissipated. This is so. The purple-haired youth, whose face was full of blood and could not hold back the tears in his eyes, struggled to get up, his eyes full of anger. But the rest of the people ignored him. After opening the elf bracelet and determining some of Baizi's appearance, he walked towards the ultimate cave in turn. Only the dwarf girl who seemed to be parasitized deliberately fell behind. Worry comes out of the mouth. Behind. The purple-haired youth twitched at the corners of his mouth. 543. Blackening, the murderous Rushamanai. The feeling that Baizi brought to pass through the ultimate void again is very different from before. A sense of control at will, shrinking, expanding or closing, even in the ultimate open a fork in the inside of the cave and turn it back to the ultimate space, and he can do it. Vice versa. Really good power of authority. At this moment, Baizi's mind flashed through several tactics using the ultimate hole. And between thoughts, he had already seen a flower, and reappeared in the secret laboratory. Baizi, you're back. As soon as Baizi appeared, Lusamanai immediately greeted her. Her face was obviously tired, but her expression was obviously relieved. What, are you worried about me? Looking at the beautiful woman in front of her, who looked nervous and weighed herself up and down, Baizi smiled suddenly, stretched out his hand and scratched on Lusamanai's nose, and asked. However, as soon as this action was completed, both of them were stunned. 25. That. Baizi opened his mouth, and just when he was about to explain that he accidentally took her as his own Lusamanai said first. By the way, has your business been done? Lusamanai's cheeks were slightly red, her jade fingers were slender, and she gathered up the soft golden threads around her ears, showing a light and familiar demeanor that was decidedly different from that of the little girl. All kinds of styles. Ling Baizi's eyes couldn't help but cross a ray of surprise. It's done. Baizi nodded. At this time, several people walked out of the ultimate hole behind him one after another, and the thin young man with purple hair walked last, and, intentionally or unintentionally, hid behind the rest of the people. Baizi glanced at him casually, and then withdrew his gaze. Although that Zimao was not willing to stop him, Baizi actually didn't take it to heart, and Shinado had already taught him a lesson, so it was regarded as a small punishment. But, before Shinado sensed the 8 unknown breaths, it must have come from this group of people. The 3 ultimate alien beasts, and the 5 elves, all above the heavenly king high rank. The strongest blocking tree owl has even reached the intermediate level of the champion, and the slightly weaker Philomelody is also the ultimate beast who has just entered the champion level. So powerful. But in terms of the top-level combat power on the bright side, the general regional alliance is not enough for this team to fight. And this. It seems that it is just a private army under the hands of Lusamine. It's amazing. Baizi couldn't help but sigh. That's right, Baizi. Rusamine's voice sounded again, interrupting his reverie. The voice was weak, but it contained expectation. Are you free next time? I mean, if you are not in a hurry. Rusamine asked cautiously. If you ask a question, you have to take a look at Baizi's expression, as if he was afraid of causing Baizi's displeasure at all. On the other side, the purple-haired eyeballs who saw this scene were about to pop out. The rest of the people, although their expressions did not change, they couldn't help but stun secretly. You must know that the impression that the former Lusamine gave them was only strong, tyrannical, and unstoppable. Now, this is just like a little girl who is in love. Baizi frowned slightly. He is not blind like many novel male protagonists. Of course, he can feel the different feelings of Rusamanai that can hardly be concealed. If it's normal, he naturally doesn't mind staying and talking with this royal sister like Rusamine, but now, he really doesn't have time, and he's not in the mood to do it. Sorry. Baizi smiled apologetically and responded, it's not that I don't want to give you this face, I really have something to do. If you delay another minute, there will be more variables. That's good, wait for me to solve it. After this matter, how about coming to Alola to find you again? It's okay. Rusumanai couldn't hide her disappointment, but she hurriedly shook her head and said, since there is an urgent matter, then I won't force you to stay, by the way. From her waist pocket, she took out a slightly crumpled note with a bit of sweat stuck to it. After a bit of a hassle to smooth it out, he handed it to Baizi. This is my private communication number. If you need any help, you can contact me at any time. Good. Baizi took the slightly damp note, glanced at the handsome handwritten numbers on it, said nothing, nodded, and simply accepted it. I have something for you too. Saying that, Baizi took out 2 Pokeballs from his pocket, sparkling pink pendants. This is when he was on the road with pink diamonds plus ultimate balls and deluxe balls. A pair of diamond elf ball earrings made by the spirit ball maker. That is, it can be used as a Pokeball or as an accessory. Hey Tilda, I made this myself. It's a thank you gift to thank you for your help. How about it? Accept it. Thank you Tilda. Lucamina reached out and took it with a surprised look on her face. After looking at it for a while, she turned her hair to the side, took off the 2 gold-studded gemstone earrings, and threw them aside at will. Just about to bring myself. Think about it. Rusumanai suddenly spread out her hands, held up the earrings in front of Baizi, and said a little shyly, okay, can you help me wear them? Of course. Looking at the beautiful face in front of her with hope, Baizi nodded without hesitation, and took the earrings from Rusumanai's hand. He stroked his hair, the white swan's neck was up, and the crystal earlobes were flushed. Baizi approached slightly, and in the faint fragrance, he carefully hung the earrings, and then the other side. Okay. Getting up, looking at the pink pendant that complements the white skin, Baizi smiled with satisfaction, it's perfect. Thank you Tilda. Lucamina smiled sweetly. Subsequently, Baizi said his goodbyes again. After the two said their goodbyes, Lucamina opened the protective device in the laboratory. In her eyes, she watched Baizi and Shinado disappear in the momentarily moving microcosm. In the light. I don't know if it's an illusion, but Lucamina always feels that the strange-colored Shinado shaves him before leaving. Illusions. Rusamina didn't take it to heart. Touched the earrings. Looking at the laboratory that was already empty, the bright and pretty face was gradually covered with a haze. Sus' hand pressed on the push handle and moved forward a bunch. Click tilde. The space blockade and defense device of the laboratory is activated again. 544. Great cleaning. Alien Killer 1 attribute. Empty. _. As Lucamine activated the laboratory's space blockade and protective equipment, a paranoid momentum filled the entire laboratory room. Cold, the purple-haired youth shuddered subconsciously. He could figure out what was going on. The ponytail girl he called Mia's deputy team knelt down in front of Lucamine's eyes with a puff. With a voice without the slightest fluctuation, he pleaded in a low voice, "Boss, for the sake of Frank's hard work in the past, let him die." Rusumanai took a deep look at one of her most powerful assistants before saying, "So, you want to accompany him?" Mia was not talking. She quietly stepped aside, and the little loli of Zuwuyed quickly ran away from Frank's side when she saw this. The other 5 people were already very tacitly distributed in 5 corners, surrounding Frank. What do you mean?" It was only at this moment that Frank with purple hair exclaimed in hindsight. Subsequently, as if trying to understand something, she looked at Rusamine with a look of disbelief. You are going to kill me just because of what I said before." He is a Heavenly King level trainer. Even in the most prosperous period of the Grand Metropolis, the Heavenly Kings were the top figures standing above tens of thousands of people. Now, in order to accept the asylum of the Ether Foundation, he condescended to become a private thug who was always on call by Rusamine. You've already made 1 or 2 wrong words, and you're about to lose your life. He measured his head. Yu Guangzong. He found that the clown who had been close to him for a long time was leaning against the corner, completely ignoring his eyes for help, throwing himself away, and having fun. This ultimate beast, who has been his partner for almost 2 years, has obviously abandoned him. This is normal. The ace main force of all the members of the special attack team was personally selected, incubated and trained by Lusamanai, who is said to be their partner, but the actual owner was Lusamanai. And not just sprites. Except for the more special illusory-eyed, the other 6 people, including Mia, were also adopted and trained by Lusamanai since childhood. Only Frank. Because the previous clown was unfortunately killed while completing the mission, he was selected from the ultimate people, sheltered by Lusamanai 2 years ago. As a supplement, he joined the ultimate commando. Perhaps because of this, he lacked a trace of awe. And this moment. Frank's heart is full of resentment, dissatisfaction, and unwillingness. A ray of scarlet rushed into his eyes, against his blue-white complexion, like a ghost. His fists were clenched tightly together. But in the next second, he seemed to accept his fate, and he knelt on the floor with a puff, his body shuddered and shrank into a ball. Rusamine's face was expressionless. On the other side, the illusory-eyed little Lolita glanced at Frank, who was shrunk into a ball, and shook her head. It was at this time. Frank, who had been shrunk into a ball, suddenly jumped up from the ground, and he did not know when he had grasped a metal-colored Pokeball that had been unlocked and enlarged. He raised his right arm, and was about to throw it in the direction of Rusamine. But he was only halfway there. Next moment. Swoosh swish. As 5 afterimages flashed by, Frank froze in place in an instant. His neck was crossed by Alu Rado's staggered arm knives, and the right arm holding the elf ball was clenched by the flaming roaring tiger. His left arm and legs were covered with quicksand, and a grimace appeared in the shadows under his feet. Behind the blocking tree owl, a paw is quietly stepping on his shadow. Gollum, _ The pokeball slipped from Frank's palm and rolled into the shadows behind him. Slap tilde. In the white light, an elf shaped like a circus clown. This is actually a clown with a bang. Lusamine's eyes were slightly cold. To know. According to her order, all the ultimate people were not allowed to own the Ultra Beast. Even if it is to subdue ordinary spirits, it must be declared. And this banging clown is obviously not within the scope of her knowledge and approval. Clean up tilde. Then. Rusamanai turned to look at the ponytail woman with a tight body, her eyes darkened. Mia, call me all the ultimate citizens in the settlement area. After speaking, Rusamanai stopped talking, touched the earrings, seemed to have calmed down a little, turned her head and walked towards the independent elevator. Yes. Mia complied respectfully. After Lusamine entered the elevator and left, she raised her head and stood in front of the short-haired woman headed by the other side. The expressionless face, the chill is even worse. Captain, please let me come. Named, Anna, glanced at the colleague. He didn't speak, just raised his chin towards his hands. She knows very well that after today, all the ultimate people have been cleaned up. Frank will never be alone. Emiya attaches great importance to the character of her relatives. I am afraid that at this time it will strip Frank's thoughts. Several commando members of the SHIELD group got out of the way. Let Mia come to Frank's eyes. Deputy team. There was a look of help in Frank's eyes. But the next moment. Sip, click. Mia's sharp straight punch suddenly shattered Frank's throat. Back off a bit. Frank, who was let go, clutched his neck in pain, and gradually collapsed on the ground. Should come. It all happened so fast that the banging clown didn't even have time to react. And saw the owner on the verge of death. West. The lantern-like head was directly taken off by it, and the ultimate aura of the king level was suddenly revealed. But the next moment. Did it? Clatter tilde. With a crisp claw-tapping sound, a pair of scarlet beast pupils gradually lit up from behind the slamming clown. Immediately after. With a wooden mask on its head and its whole body up and down, it looks like a beast composed of several creatures roaming out. And with the appearance of this elf that seemed to be randomly assembled by human beings, the bang-toed clown suddenly froze in place like a freeze frame. Not just this banging clown. All the extreme beasts present subconsciously tightened their bodies, as if facing the natural enemy. That being said, there is no problem. Because this peculiar elf in front of him is one of the highest experimental results of the Ether Foundation, and it is specially used to fight against, or even hunt, the artificial elf of the ultimate alien beast. Attribute: empty. 545. Arrive in the desert city and search the city with unscrupulous mind power. Baizi naturally knew nothing of what happened in the laboratory. After being teleported to a high altitude by Shanae Duo, he released Lai Kongxi again, left Alola's boundary, and headed towards the desert city of Carlos. Boom, underscore. There were sonic booms, the sea of clouds rolled over, and Baizi sat cross-legged on top of Lai Kong's head, and beside him was Shinado, who was holding the hood. Hoopa. Baizi's eyes were heavy, his thoughts surging in his mind, and he began to formulate the direction of action for the goal of the trip. First, of course, to find Hoopa. Then, it is to release Hoopa's shackles, so that it is no longer limited by the limitation that it cannot pass through the light wheel. Compared to this, Tenno's power to liberate Hoopa is rather inferior need. But then again, if you simply want to make Hoopa go through the light wheel, then what is needed is to make Hoopa understand the meaning of discipline. This Hoopa refers to the little Hoopa who lived in the Valley of Creation for nearly 100 years, but also the evil shadow, Hoopa who was sealed in the jug of punishment and blinded by anger. The so-called understanding the meaning of punishment, in fact, is to let Hoopa accept labor reform and become a beast again. Little Hoopa is fine. Although there are some restrictions, in fact, he has always been very happy in the Valley of Creation. That little bit of unruly behavior will naturally be spent long ago. But, evil shadow, Hoopa is different. It was sealed in the dark jug of punishment for more than 100 years, and that unruly stubbornness has already turned into anger and resentment. Even if it is sealed for another 100 years, I am afraid it will only make its resentment. Anger intensifies. In the original. By sharing his wonderful experience in the Valley of Creation, the little devil god Hoopa successfully purifies the evil shadow. To be honest, Baizi did not expect it. After all, in his opinion, everyone is one body, and as a result, the pot of punishment is one point. I have endured loneliness and anger for more than 100 years, but you are happy and have someone to accompany and care about. Show me. Surely this isn't exciting. Can only say. Whether it is the little devil god Hoopa or the evil shadow, Hoopa, in essence, they are all pure. Evil shadow is still so simple in this real world, then maybe the difficulty of his trip to achieve his goal will become much easier. I hope so. Bite CFED, sighed inwardly. If not, then you can only plan for the worst first. A head-to-head duel with evil shadow, Hoopa, and even a number of top legends. Chirp, underscore. 3 days later, with the sound of breaking air, Baizi slowly landed on the desert outside the desert city under the protection of Shinado's hood. Thank you for your hard work, Shinado. After taking out a few super energy cubes to feed the slightly tired Shinado, Baizi put away Shinado and stepped onto a sand dune. Looking out into the distance, it was already faintly visible. Coastal City. Desert City. A city located in the south of the northwest coastline of Carlos has a long history, but its rise is short, only 100 years. It is surrounded by the largest coastal desert in the Carlos area, and the huge mountain range behind Panhang blocks the passage to the inland, so the land transportation is very inconvenient, and it basically relies on shipping and freighters to dump and buy supplies. Speak up. After the desert town developed more than 100 years ago with a windfall that has yet to be explained, a large number of crystal mines of attributes were discovered in the surrounding and underground of the city. Pulse. According to the survey results of the Alliance's professional survey team, the total amount of attribute crystalline ore veins around and underground in the desert city is close to 1/7 of the attribute crystalline ore veins in the entire Carlos area. So, Desert City is also known as the City on the Mine. In terms of wealth alone, even among the cities in the entire elf world, it ranks first. Looking around, the most striking thing is naturally the Desert Tower, standing in the middle of the city. It is said, "There lies the power of Arceus." And according to the expression in the original anime, it is also the place where the traveler, Gules, as well as his grandson Balza and granddaughter Miley, built and restored the pot of retribution more than 100 years ago. I don't know if Hoopa and Miley have come to Desert City at this time. Baizi's eyes turned slightly. Moment. He restrained his thoughts, summoned the wind speed dog, jumped on the dog's back, and headed towards the Desert City. The only places where Hoopa appeared were the Desert City and the Valley of Creation. However, compared to the hidden and difficult to find Valley of Creation, Desert City is much easier to find. Therefore, Baizi is going to go to the Desert City to take a look. It is best to find Hoopa in the Desert City. If he can't find it, it means that Hoopa at this time has not been taken out of the Valley of Creation by Miley, or he is on his way to the Desert City. I hope to be here. Otherwise, he could only search for the Valley of Creation in the vast desert according to the extremely limited clues in his mind. Even, in the desert, a needle is found in a haystack. Between thoughts, Baizi officially arrived at the outskirts of the Desert City with many high-rise buildings in the rapid speed of the wind speed dog. He did not enter the city immediately, but stopped at the edge of the city. In most cities, riding beasts is not allowed. Desert City is naturally the same. Moreover, Baizi didn't intend to ride the wind speed dog like a headless fly to search the streets and alleys of the Desert City in a stupid way. This distance should almost be enough. After roughly estimating the depth and scope of the entire city, Baizi took a deep breath and said slowly, "Hopefully, there is no superpower system that is too powerful in this city. Elves are superhumans." Next second, the surging spiritual power instantly centered on Baizi, fanning out towards the hustle and bustle of the city ahead, rushing away unscrupulously. 546. Ohuo tilde offending a king plus champion, please complete order. This was the first time that Baizi was so reckless and used his mental power to scan with full firepower. To be honest, this behavior is very taboo. Although the mental scan will not be able to see through, but those who have sensed it will probably have a sense of prying like being scanned by X-rays. This is almost like a provocation. For women, it's no different from being a hooligan. However, Baizi obviously can't care so much at this moment. Spiritual power continues to spread. It didn't take long for it to stretch across half of the city and continue to spread towards the other half of the city. Baizi scanned very carefully. Otherwise, with the speed at which his spiritual power spreads, he might have swept across the city in the blink of an eye. The first half of the city didn't have. Neither does Center Street. Then, only the tourist scenic spots along the coast are left. With the continuous spread of mental power, Baizi, who has been getting nothing, his eyebrows gradually twitched. And just when his mental power swept across the coast just now, Two unfamiliar mental powers suddenly rose up like stress, one after the other, quickly blocking Baizi's mental power exploration. Rude. In a desert house west of the Desert City Center, a blonde girl dressed in gauze and with knee-length hair as if being held up by an invisible force suddenly raised her eyebrows, almost knocking over her hands. Milkshake cup. Catalina never thought of it. Just going to the desert city of Carlos to taste some local delicacies, you will meet a guy who dares to perform indiscriminate mental scans so unscrupulously. Although she has experienced training in the battle development zone, she is no longer as irritable as she was in the early years, who can basically restrain her superpower from running wild. After serving as the 4 heavenly kings of Hajong, he showed an elegant and noble attitude. But this does not mean that Catalya is a good temper. She was simply able to control her anger and hide her arrogance deep within her bones. In essence, Catalya is still the eldest lady of the Hajong superpower family whose eyes are higher than the top, and the weak see nothing. Blonde floats. Catalya's mental power surged almost as soon as Bai Zi's mental power touched her body, and launched a counterattack with the most ferocious attitude. But if Catalya's mental power is like a storm rising from the table, then Bai Zi's mental power is like an undercurrent hidden in the bottom of the sea. At the moment of contact between the two parties, Bai Zi's mental power suddenly rushed left and right in Catalya's manic and majestic, but not subtle mental power like a swimming fish. In an instant, it bypassed the mental power that Catalya blocked and crossed, and it passed through Catalya's body, and soon disappeared into the distance. Subconsciously tightening the collar of her clothes, Catalya's face flushed red. A moment. Bang, underscore. The milkshake in front of Catalya's table exploded in a tremor, and in an instant, the superpower shock from the explosion completely tore everything around Catalya. The house shook, and the ground cracked with cobweb-like gaps. What's the matter? Ah! Earth, is there an earthquake? Exclamations rang out in the dessert house and even in the nearby streets. And then, whoosh underscore. A blue psychic force directly wrapped Catalya and swept away rapidly towards the desert area of Desert City to the east. Meanwhile, on the other side. In an open-air restaurant just 1,000 meters away from where Catalya is located, Kalyunai, who was sitting under a sun umbrella tasting the freezing point, pursed her lips slightly, her face full of pleasant enjoyment. Since Yankai lost to the little girl from Galar in the ranking battle of the tournament, the entire Carlos was almost in a state of turmoil. As the platoon of the Carlos Alliance, Karuna, who is the champion, is dealing with the official affairs of the alliance and performing her career, and she spends the rest of her time in the pursuit of various supervisors. Passing through the block. To be honest, as an alliance champion and against the Grand Duchess of the castle, she is not afraid of challenges. But such a degree of persecution. Ask for flowers. It still made Karuna a little tired physically and mentally. Today, it was her afternoon tea time that she finally came out to reward herself after finishing a scene in the desert. Fortunately, the desert city's characteristic oasis dessert, Freezing Point, really lives up to its reputation. Even though she has eaten countless gourmet desserts, Karuna has to admit that this unique flavor is indeed unique. When the ice cream is over, let's try the eponymous dessert house. Karuna thought leisurely. And right now. Huh. Feeling the Shinado Pokeball that was the only thing she was carrying around her waist, Karuna, who suddenly trembled, raised her clothes in confusion. Next second. Sana tilde. Mega stone necklace hanging around his head quickly flashed out of the white light. In Karuna's suspicious eyes. Wave. Directly using Kalunai as the center of the circle, he created a mask covering a square garden of several meters for one person and one pet. Karuna almost subconsciously pinched the keystone in front of her chest and entered a state of preparation for battle. Shinado, what happened? Sana tilde. Shinado's face was slightly annoyed, and the tone in his telepathy was unusually cold. Kalunai, someone used a wide range of mental power to scan the city just now. Scan the whole city. Karuna's face was stunned for a moment, and then she immediately reacted. Wait. People, what do you mean? Someone with superpowers has carried out a mental scan of the whole city. Yes, Shinado nodded, adding, and a human male. Karuna's eyelids jumped, her face slightly cold. Moment. She turned to look at her partner beside her. Shinado, you should have already determined his position, right? Of course. P.S. Catalya follows the character design of the game in the special chapter. Karuna is considered comprehensive. In the special chapter, her Shinado Mega Stone is on her forehead, which is very beautiful Chi. 547. The Indestructible Bond, the little girl who did not grow. Please complete the order. This is a hornet's nest. At the edge of the desert city, Bai Zi, who was sitting on the back of the wind speed dog, slowly restrained his mental strength. The corners of his mouth twitched slightly, and he smiled helplessly while touching his forehead. Although he was ready to be discovered before using his mental power to scan the city. But be prepared to be prepared. He never thought that he would run into a superpower king of Hujong and the local league champion of Carlos. The most important thing is that, despite paying such a price, he was unable to find Xiaohupa in the desert city. Alas tilde. Bai Zi sighed softly. Look up. Overlook. Looking at the blue hood that was galloping along with the sound of breaking wind in the air, his expression suddenly collapsed. Well, the troublemaker has come. Sister Catalya's little, for Sanchi, I. Go to hell. Catalya, who was wrapped in the phoenix, was too lazy to talk nonsense with Bai Zi. Her blue eyes showed a azure luster, and a turbulent bullet suddenly smashed towards Bai Zi. Call, _. The wind speed dog snorted immediately, and in an instant, an invisible hot wind exhaled, and instantly burned the incoming thought power. Think, I can explain. Bai Zi finished his words with a slight twitching of the corners of his mouth, and then shook his head. Okay, it seems that I need to explain it to you in a different way. Then why don't you give me an explanation as well? The gentle girl rang. Bai Zi turned his head and saw Miss Karuna, the champion of Carlos, with a slightly cold face, and, beside her, Shinado with a mega stone decoration on her forehead. And the one who touched Bai Zi's eyes in an instant, Karuna lightly twisted the Super Evolution keystone necklace on her chest. Faint smile. Mega Evolution. Sa tilde na. In the melodious chanting sound, Shinado crossed his arms and burst into a dazzling white light. Ching, the light burst, and the super evolutionary Shinado reappeared in the little stars. Race, Super Shinado. Attribute, Super Fairy. Characteristics, Fairy skin. Movements with general attributes will become fairy attributes, and the power will be slightly increased. Level, Champion Extreme, Mega Temporary Blessing, Champion Advanced, Level 78, 99 100ths. Potential, Champion. HP, 68, Attack, 85, Defense, 65, Special Attack, 165, Special Defense, 135, Speed, 100. Skills, Psychic Power, Destruction Death Light, Spiritual Strong Mind, Spiritual Impact, Charging Beam. Genetic Skill, Immobilization Method. Prop, Mega Evolution Stone. Closing parenthesis closing square bracket. Status, Perfect. Introduction. Karuna's ace partner, Shinado, has a uniquely gifted and strong mental power, and an indestructible bond with Karuna. Aggressive. And, if I read it right just now, this Shinado's mega stone is on the forehead. From this point of view, I'm afraid it's not just the Karuna in the anime version. A special one. Was a flash of thought in Bai Zi's eyes. No wonder that, introduction, column specifically mentioned the bond between him and Karuna. According to the plot in the special chapter. Even though Karuna and Shinado were wrapped in the transforming skill, magic space, that Pacula used with the long-tailed firefox, they still successfully achieved super evolution. To know. Skill, magic space, is to make the props in the space useless. It is precisely because of this that Pacula has to sink the magic space, and put Karuna and the Shinado as buried in the ground. I have to mention it here, the use of skills in the special chapter is really more than 10 streets in the game animation. And at the same time, with the completion of the super evolution of Xanadu of Karuna. The other side. Catalya in midair, looking at the wind speed dog, is full of surprise. She knows how strong her superpower is. Although it is not subtle, its strength is perfect. It's enough to compare to the ordinary super-type Heavenly King level elves. In addition, He shot with anger. Let alone a human being, a single blow to the ground was enough to overturn most of the street in an instant. But this wind speed dog is just a heat breath that doesn't even count as a complete skill, so it directly incinerates itself into invisible. This level of fire attributes strength and control, even the Vulcan moth in the hands of their combined champion Adek, is hard to match. But Catalia is not the kind of temperament that she will swallow her anger when the other party is strong. Addition, the Carlos champion Karuna, who is also annoyed and came to trouble this guy. 2-on-1, it is not without the strength of a fight. Amidst the agitation of invisible spiritual power, 1, 2, 3. A total of 6 Pokeballs emerged around her. Immediately after. Click, click, click. Accompanied by the sound of the Pokeball opening. Miss Gerda, the artificial cell egg, the dream eclipse, the symbolic bird, the giant golden monster, and the bronze bell, all of them appeared one by one. And Catalia was also in this, fully armed, slowly falling on the ground. Miss Gerda, Heavenly King Advanced, Level 68, 6100ths. Dream Eclipse, Heavenly King Advanced, Level 66, 85/100ths. Artificial Cell Egg, Heavenly King Intermediate, Level 65, 95/100ths. Symbol Bird, the beginning of the King of Heaven, Level 63, 20/100ths. Bronze Bell, beginning of the King of Heaven, Level 61, 50/100ths. Giant Golden Monster, Heavenly King Advanced, Level 67, 10/100ths. Baizi casually glanced in the direction of Catalia, and instantly found out the general strength of this well-known 4.3 superpower system King's main power. Subsequently, he turned his gaze and was very satisfied, but Karuna, who was wearing a coat and a dancing skirt, couldn't help but flash a ray of surprise in his eyes. According to the image in the anime or manga, between Catalia and Karuna, Baizi prefers Catalia. But now I see it with my own eyes. In front of Karuna's dazzling demeanor, Catalia was like a little girl who had not yet opened her eyes. After thinking about it, Baizi narrowed his eyes and said with a light smile. But Miss Karuna looks like she's just asking me for an explanation. P.S. Dress up Karuna, it's so beautiful. 548. Harvest Alliance King plus Champion Captive. Nothing. Lunai still maintained a smiling expression, and between the words, in the dark blue pupils, a faint cold light flashed. I just want to make you lose the ability to resist before asking. It's just power. Shanido. Sana Tilda. Super Xanaduo raised his hand. All of a sudden, Baizi felt that countless waves of thoughts were suddenly surging in all directions, and they quickly closed in the direction of himself and the wind speed dog. At the same time, hum. Several lines of thought power behind him also rose up in an instant, turned into thought ropes, and headed towards Baizi bundle. Originally, I didn't mind dealing with you guys, but I'm sorry. Facing the power of thought, Baizi's eyes gradually deepened, and he gently patted the wind speed dog on the back. I don't have that much free time now. Words fall. Wu tilde. An invisible coercion, accompanied by the low roar of the wind speed dog, came out through the body. Characteristic, intimidation. All of a sudden, it seemed that everything around him had come to a standstill for a while. Immediately after. Circles and circles of energy swept in all directions with the wind speed dog as the center, and the wind pressure blew, pushing the boundless gravel layer 25 to retreat, and clearing a large wet rock layer on the edge of the city. And everyone or elves within this range felt a tremor in their brains, and when they recovered, they found themselves lying on the ground. This guy, Kalyunai, who was guarded by Super Shinado, was half prostrate on the sand, looking suspiciously at Baizi, who rolled down from the back of the wind speed dog and walked slowly towards him. You are a champion. Even if she is not a belligerent person, she is extremely confident in her own strength Shinado. But now, this lost self-confidence was instantly disillusioned. She is proud of the strongest ace, Shinado, in the state of super evolution. Even a simple intimidation from the opponent's wind speed dog can't stop. The difference is really too big. Tread tilde. He came to the front of one person and one pet, and looked at Shinado, who was finally forced to release the super evolution under the pressure of the wind speed dog wave after wave. Baizi's eyes were involuntarily attracted by Karuna, her beautiful back exposed because her coat was blown away. However, although he is not a decent gentleman, he did not intend to take advantage of others' dangers. Come forward. In Karuna's vigilant and shy eyes, she touched 5.6 and retrieved Shinado's Pokeball and put it away, then got up again and retrieved her coat and put it on Karuna's back. Karuna breathed a sigh of relief. And Baizi then threw it casually, and threw the Pokeball with Shinado in the direction of the wind speed dog. Woo tilde. Immediately, a fiery red imprint phantom flew out from the wind speed dog's forehead, and was printed on Shinado's elf ball, leaving a mark shaped like a flame. Slap, underscore. The Pokeball then fell into the sand. Immediately after. Inside the Pokeball, Shinado struggled frantically as if he was feeling it, but the Pokeball, which was easy to break free in the past, was now like an indestructible cage, making it. Can't get rid of it at all. Baizi glanced at it and didn't care. He is very clear. Unless it is a master ball, let alone a championship level, even if it reaches the king level, ordinary Pokeballs can't be locked at all. However, after the wind speed dog was officially promoted to the realm of the gods, in addition to the change in strength, it also possessed a lot of strange power. For example, use the power of the burning authority to create a seal mark. And in this way, unless the wind speed dog takes the initiative to untie it or Xanadu also breaks through the god's domain level. Otherwise, Shinado would not be able to escape from the Pokeball at all. Immediately after, Baizi came to Catalya, who was 5 body, on the ground again, and turned over for the other party under the eyes of the other party who were ashamed and angry. Take off the Pokeball, and seal all her 6 hands like the same method. Then, stepping down and squatting over Catalya's body, he pulled away the messy waterfall hair of the other party, looked at the other party's stubborn gaze that showed no signs of weakness, and couldn't help but chuckle. It's really a little bastard. Words fall. Without waiting for the other party to respond, he pointed directly on Catalya's forehead. All of a sudden, the scorching white radiance of thought power rose from Baizi's eyes and fingertips, one after another, pouring into Catalya's body. Skill, mental blockade. Catalya only felt that a tyrannical mental force was rampaging in her mind, and the severe pain almost broke through her temples. But soon, she felt the pain go away like a tide, and her whole brain seemed to lighten up. At the same time, the luster in Baizi's eyes gradually disappeared. He retracted his palm, got up and looked in the direction of the wind speed dog. Okay. The words just fell. Call. Karuna and Catalya both felt their bodies loosen and collapsed on the ground. Soon, Karuna struggled to sit up from the sand. But Catalya, who turned over and sat up behind Baizi, suddenly flashed a tyrannical look in her eyes, and raised her palms to aim at the top of Baizi's head. He hesitated. He turned to Baizi's legs again and grabbed it abruptly. However, something that surprised Catalya happened. The mental power that was originally violent at the touch of as if disappeared. Grip again, grip again, grip again. Moment. The anger on Catalya's face turned to stunned. She lowered her head, looked at her hands in disbelief, and whispered. My superpower. Don't worry, your superpower has not disappeared, but it was temporarily blocked by my mental power. Baizi's voice sounded. The same goes for the Pokeball, which I temporarily sealed up. As he said that, he sent Karuna and Catalya's Pokeballs back to the two of them with his mind power. Karuna picked up the elf ball in front of her with a complicated look, glanced at Baizi, and then softly comforted Shinado, who was still trying to break the seal. And the other side. 437. The disheveled Catalya completely ignored the pokeball that fell in front of her, stared straight at Baizi's profile, and said, "Mental power blockade, such mental power skills. Are you a member of the Kanto superpower family?" Baizi's eyes twitched slightly, but he obviously didn't want to answer Catalya, but turned his eyes to Karuna, who put away the pokeball. "Next, I need to ask the two young ladies to accompany me for a while. When I finish the matter, I will explain it to the two of you." "So, you want to kidnap us?" Kalunai raised her eyes and said after a long time. "Does Miss Karuna understand that?" Baizi blinked, smiling harmlessly. "So, it's fine. In order to avoid these two backgrounds being more profound than the other, it will bring unnecessary obstacles to their next actions." It was obviously impossible for Baizi to just let these two women who had been offended so badly by him. But in the end, it was his fault. Therefore, it is impossible for him to really do anything to the two of them. Only temporarily keeping them by his side is the best way. In all, this trip to the desert city, first of all, won the Alliance King plus Alliance Champion prisoner each. It's really gratifying, it's gratifying. 549. Search to no avail, unexpected joy. Of superpowers, is like looking for a needle in a haystack. But this is the last resort. Now Baizi first needs to determine whether Hoopa and Miley have left the Valley of Creation. That is to say, he first needed to find the location of the Valley of Creation. At this point, it is much simpler than finding a needle in a haystack in the desert. After all, although the Valley of Creation is not shown on the map of the Carlos Alliance, from the original work, the Valley of Creation is obviously not far from the desert city. Otherwise, it is also impossible to build the desert tower forging the pot of retribution in the center of the desert city. The words of the valley. Baizi opened the virtual map of Carlos displayed above the elf bracelet, and gradually zoomed into focus on the west side of the herringbone mountain range surrounding the unnamed desert, adjacent to the desert on the area of. Here is the valley area closest to the desert city. There are dozens of large and small valleys, but it is much simpler than finding someone in the desert. Quickly arrange positioning and navigation. Do some thought. Baizi took back the wind speed dog and released the steel-armored crow. Whoops. The steel-armored crow, which is enough to be called a giant bird, attracted the attention of Karuna and Catalya as soon as it appeared. Although I have heard of Galar's gigantic transformation, this is indeed their first time. Once I saw such a huge elf. Not just them. The appearance of the steel-armored crow also made many residents in the city look at it, and Baizi's mental power sensed that many people were already rushing towards the edge of the city. "Miss Karuna, Miss Catalya, it's time for us to go," Baizi reminded aloud. Karunai was also very aware of the current affairs and did not refute, but just glanced at Baizi lightly, and brought her skirt to the front of Steel Armor Crow. Her bright eyes flickered, and with her eyesight, she could naturally see that this steel-armored crow was not just a mere appearance, but a real champion. What a little monster! Karuna sneered in her heart, but then, looking at the giant steel-armored crow reminding her, she suddenly got into trouble. Before, with Shinado, she could teleport directly to it. Even in the past. With the physique of her championship-level trainer, she is also confident that she can climb up. But now, Kalunai glanced at the two long white legs that were exposed under the backless dancing skirt under her jacket, and her face suddenly became embarrassed. "I am sorry." At this moment, a peaceful voice suddenly sounded from the side. Karuna just had time to turn her head to look at the person who came. Next second, I felt my waist tighten. Immediately afterwards, a flower appeared in the groove in the steel armor crow's head armor. Karuna, who recovered quickly, frowned slightly. Just about to speak. Baizi has already let go of his palm one step ahead, leaned slightly, and looked at Catalya below. "Pull me up, and don't touch it with your dog's paw." Woo. Before Catalya finished speaking, she saw Baizi raise his palm and grab her. The girl just looked up, and the eyes of the two met in midair. Next second, it felt like the world was turned upside down for a while, and in the violent dizziness, Baizi used his thought power to directly drag him up. Yuck tilde. Catalia retched for a while, her eyes were half squinted, and she stared at Baizi fiercely. You bastard. Go away. Baizi ignored this Han who didn't seem to be afraid. After waving his hand and putting down a layer of phoenix, he patted on the head armor of the steel-armored crow. Wow! The steel-armored crow suddenly fluttered its wings, and the yellow sand rolled into the sky. The speed of the steel-armored crow is not as fast as that of Lai Kongzai, but it is not slow, and the reason why Baizi changed to the steel-armored crow is also in the mind of whether he can meet Hoopa and Miley by chance along the way. But it's a pity. Until sunset, Baizi, who traversed the entire desert, did not foresee this person's favor. And it's not just Hoopa and Miley. The same is true of the Valley of Creation, which he thought was easy to find. After going deep alone, he almost searched the entire mountain valley area, but couldn't find any place that was populated by people. Valley can be biased. He could feel a certain sense of incongruity in this valley area, but even if he used his mental power to scan inch by inch, he even called out Liu Lu, and even Kang Xiang and Lai Kongzai. Apart from proving that the sense of incongruity was not an illusion, he still had no idea where the Valley of Creation was. Seriously. If it wasn't for Arceus, Baizi really had the intention to directly ask Lai Kong to sit down and send a dragon meteor to try it out. At this moment, as the night falls, little stars are embedded in it. The bright moon makes the scenery in the valley area dark and mysterious, like a fairyland in fairy tales. There was the sound of the wind passing by. The air current pushes the plants and flowers in the valley to and fro, as if they were given life to dance. From time to time, there are also birds fluttering their wings overhead, and deep in the vegetation, there seems to be night as well. Sparse, walking through the grass and trees brought by the elves moving in the room. To be frank. Well, Zhao, calm down, this night scene is really pleasing to the eye. Forget it. After stopping for a long time, Baizi finally sighed softly, rubbed the dog head of Liu Lu who was following his feet, and walked towards the outside of the valley. The moment he took a step, he felt that his brain was clear, and the faint sound of breaking the shell seemed to come. It's like breaking through some kind of barrier. Next second. His mental power is like a soda with effervescent tablets, and it quickly expands and grows. In an instant. Your superpower has been promoted to the top level, 5,000 10,000ths, and the spiritual power has been improved simultaneously, spirit, 5,000. Ding! The spirit is improved, the power of Baizi is simultaneously enhanced. 550. Rare animals, good wife and good mother Karuna, please complete order. Outside the valley. Under the moonlight, Karuna sat on a thick soft mat with her legs folded side by side, with a Kobe beast pillow behind her, and a blanket printed with Lalu drawing text on her knees. Holding a leather warm bag in his hand, he quietly roasted it in front of the fire surrounded by a metal grid, and occasionally took a sip of the milk tea on the small square table nearby. Then, against the cold night sky, let out a mass of hot air. To be honest. Although it was said to be a prisoner, she could already see that the young man did not have any ill will towards himself and the super-powerful little girl of Hajong. It's even enough to be called preferential treatment. These are all things reserved by the other party before departure. Not far away. There are also huge steel-armored crows lying on the air vents, blocking the cold night wind. As for the little girl called Catalia. At this moment, he is also upright, clinging to the arms of the tyrannical wind speed dog that is beyond Karune's cognition, sleeping soundly. After this little girl's superpower was sealed, her whole body became quite lethargic. But, being able to fall asleep in such an unsuspecting complete stranger and environment, Karuna doesn't know whether to say something with a big heart or no vigilance. Thinking like this, Kalunai picked up the 437 cups of milk tea brewed with ingredients provided by Baizi, and took a sip. Da da da. At this time, the sound of footsteps from far to near made Karuna, who had a lazy face, wake up a little. When he turned around and saw the person coming, he regained his calm again. How is it? Is it done? This question is quite casual, as if the relationship between the two sides is not a prisoner and a prisoner, but a familiar old friend. As soon as the words came out, Kalunai suddenly reacted, and her eyes couldn't help but cross a touch of embarrassment. Baizi was also stunned, glanced at Kalunai who was wearing tea, then shrugged and said, I can only say, it's not nothing. Talking. He glanced in the direction of the sleeping Catalia again, then went straight to the other side, and sat down next to Karuna's side with his knees crossed. The little Leoru also followed suit, sitting cross-legged next to Baizi's side. However, he was immediately carried into his arms by his unscrupulous master, and after a symbolic struggle twice, he was quickly defeated by Baizi's skilled skull. So, do I have to continue my captive life? Karuna, who put down the teacup and regained her composure, looked at Baizi, who was interacting with the dog, with a twinkle in her eyes. Asked softly. That's understandable. Baizi nodded, and while swiftly brewing a cup of elf milk powder for Leo Lu, he used his mind to do two things and brought himself a cup of hot tea. Handing the milk to Leo Lu, watching the little guy swallow the baby bottle with a gudong gudong. Then he took the teacup suspended in midair and took a sip. Is that so? Karuna nodded slightly. The topic ended quickly, and the air returned to silence again. Baizi began to think about the next course of action. And Karuna's fingers gently slid along the mouth of the cup a few times, and after a while, she asked in a slightly tentative tone. Well, can you return the communicator to me temporarily? I need to contact the agent and the person in charge of the alliance, otherwise they will definitely make a big move when they find out that I am missing. Googling. Naturally, the communication device was taken away before Baizeli left. And this moment. Facing Kalunai's question, Baizi glanced at the other party with a slightly surprised look, and after a little thought, he returned the communication device belonging to Kalunai to the other party. Karuna was right. As a famous movie star and league champion, she disappeared suddenly and silently, which may indeed cause unnecessary attention. Not to mention, although the two sides did not communicate much. But he has obviously been able to perceive the improvement of the opponent's attitude. The ability of Bai Zeji to distinguish between good and evil also proves this. At least. Original CFED has now almost disappeared. Thank you. Kalunai was also a little surprised by Baizi's straightforwardness. After taking over the communicator and turning it on again, the incoming call indicator on the communicator flashed frantically. Hey, Nana. When the call was connected, before Karuna could finish her sentence, a sharp female voice from the opposite side bombarded her like a barrage of cannons. Hey my auntie, where are you? I used to sneak away from time to time for a long time and I didn't say anything. Today, I just disappeared all day, and I didn't answer the phone or text messages. Do you know that? Dao missed several program announcements scheduled for the evening at this time. Not to mention liquidated damages and favors, the company's reputation has also suffered a blow. Barabara said a lot from Karuna's side, and Baizi's brows were furrowed. After a while, the other party left a commanding, "I'll wait at the hotel immediately," and hung up the phone. Talk. Well, my agent is a bit more arbitrary at work. Karuna sneered and explained. Wait for me in the league to explain it, and then call and make it clear to her. Saying that, Karuna made another call. Moment. Call goes through. Hello, Senator Mond. It's Miss Karuna. If the agent Nana was talking like a shrew, then the top of the alliance seemed much more refined. The words were unhurried, like a spring breeze. But the meaning inside and outside the words is no different from that of the previous agent. They are all stating the duties that Karuna needs to perform, and I hope Karuna can return to her original position as soon as possible. Don't delay your responsibilities as an actor, and a league champion because of your own personal affairs. Interesting. Baizi looked at the beauty opposite as if he was valuing animals. Immediately after, the phone hangs up. Kalunai was obviously a little tired physically and mentally. She rubbed her brows a little helplessly, and spread her hands at Baizi jokingly. Look, why don't you find an excuse for me next, and then turn the phone on? Call back. Preferential treatment to prisoners, of course there is no problem. Baizi answered simply. But, subsequently, he showed a playful smile in Karuna's slightly stunned eyes. Miss Karuna's character is very suitable to be an excellent wife and mother. 551. Hooba, Lao tilde please order all. Karuna's eyelids twitched, but she quickly reacted, and she involuntarily gave Baizi a big white eye. This guy is clearly scolding himself for being submissive. Speak first. Baizi didn't care and continued. Since you let me speak, then you have to listen to me, you can't play capricious for me. Karuna blinked innocently and spread her hands. I'm a prisoner tilde. Clear. Baizi understood in an instant, removed his palm from Leo Lu's small head, and took Karuna's hand over the communicator. Haven't waited for him to call back. Open black lens bracket jingle bell. Close black lens bracket. And the gap was not far from Catalya's subtle humming sound. Karuna's beautiful eyes flowed, and she glanced at Catalya. Subsequently, seeing that Baizi opened the call without hesitation. The communication was connected, and the manager named Nana on the opposite side suddenly complained. Ah, my aunt, why haven't you arrived yet? I'll be waiting for you on the apron on the top floor of the Desert Hotel, and you will ask Shinedo to take you for a moment. Shut up. The opposite side choked obviously, but quickly. You, who are you? You don't care who I am. I now formally inform you on behalf of Miss Karuna that this agent who stretches his hand too long. You are fired. You. Beep. The other party was obviously going to say something else, but Baizi had already hung up the other party's phone. Subsequently, quickly block the other party's communication number and exit the communication card. Facing Karuna, took a photo, and then clicked on Karuna's social account, the picture above, accompanied by the text, I am very tired recently, I'm going to take a break. Click upload to complete the release. You, what are you doing? Kalunai was stunned. And, you, that's how you solved it. Why not? Baizi casually threw the communication device that had lost the communication card back to Karuna, hugged the dog in his arms, and lay on his back on the soft mat. Your agent is obviously using you as a tool person, and there is a high probability that he has an interest relationship with the Alliance executive who contacted you before. Nana and Senator Mond. Karuna's expression became even more confused. Why do you say that? Baizi glanced at Sister Yu, who suddenly seemed a little naive. Otherwise, you thought that as a high-level executive of the Carlos Alliance, you would be idle and have nothing to do, so I specially reminded you to focus on the performance. Karuna. Okay, get ready to spend the night here for a while, until tomorrow morning. Baizi rolled over and got up, but he didn't finish his words. Immediately after. Miley, don't worry, I'll find a master right away. Accompanied by a small cotton sound of palace nails hitting XP, a twisted ring inside, from right above his body, gradually emerged. Hoopa, low. Time moved forward 10 minutes. At the same time that Baizi walked out of the valley and returned to the camp. On a sand dune about half a desert away from Baizi's camp, Miley, who was setting up the camp alone, suddenly heard a rustle sound. Hoopa, come to me. The first time she woke up, she immediately greeted Hoopa, who was circling around in midair. Subsequently, quickly jumped up on a weathered rock on the dune, grabbed a flashlight, and glanced vigilantly at the sounds that were constantly gathering in all directions. Under the light of flashlights, the surrounding sand constantly undulates and rolls in his direction, leaving plow marks. Miley, what's the matter? Hoopa quickly floated to Miley's side, clasped her hands tightly, and asked cautiously. "It should be the Dragon King Scorpion Swarm." Miley's expression is a little dignified. As a child who lives in the desert all year round, how could she not know the third danger in the desert, which is also called quicksand and tornado? Encounter. Hunting Dragon King Scorpion Swarm. ... Ask for flowers. As predicted. Rustling. Accompanied by waves of sand surging, a Dragon King Scorpion with only shades of purple worm armor, in front of you. Surrounded by one person and one pet group. Yi. Shut up. And a larger number of unevolved pincer-tailed scorpions, appearing in Miley and Hoopa's. A roar echoed in the night sky. And as a Dragon King Scorpion that was obviously bigger than the surrounding Dragon King Scorpions climbed out, the Dragon King Scorpions and pincer-tailed scorpions suddenly shook their armors. The body is lowered, the tail hook is raised. Miley's expression changed, because she knew very well that this was a sign that the Dragon King Scorpion tribe was about to attack. Hi. Miley took a deep breath and raised her palms. In an instant, a dazzling light rose from both palms, and a mysterious wave spread out in an instant, causing the surrounding Dragon King Scorpion group to instantly freeze. Gia. The leading Dragon King Scorpion flicked its huge pincer tail slightly hesitantly, and his eyes were full of vigilance and surprise at the aura full of the vast superior, but reluctant prey. For a while, the scene fell into a stalemate. However, Miley knew very well that this stalemate could not be delayed for long. With the fierce nature of the Dragon King Scorpion, unless it was the natural enemy hippo beast. Otherwise, it is impossible to return without action. Hoopa. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Miley reminded in a low voice. And Hoopa also moved for the first time. Miley, don't worry, I'll find a helper right away. A little trick. Moment. The metal ring on the left corner of Hoopa suddenly flew up and quickly became larger in midair. And as the inside of its ring twists up, Hoopa immediately stretched out his little hand into the twisted space inside the ring. Hoopa, lao. ... Begging. 552. I'm stuck, it's a close call. Lao tilde. With Hupala's long-tailed mouth fetish, the small palm exerts force. After a while. 1. Seeing Miley's hopeful gaze, Hoopa, who had a small face and exerted her strength for a long time, wriggled at the corners of her mouth, and pulled out an embarrassing and polite smirk. Stuck. The other side of the halo. At this moment, the little Leo Lu sank his waist and immediately settled on the spot with a standard horse stance that could no longer be standard, and a tyrannical waveguide faintly appeared around him. With two claws, they are holding on to a small purple-gray hand that sticks out from the ring. What is this? Karunai looked at the ring and probed her brain as if she had never seen the world before, and her small mouth turned into a 437 shape. Even completely ignoring Riolu exudes a comparable championship level the waveguide strength. To be honest, Karuna is still a little confused. Just now, this halo appeared in front of her and Bai Zi without warning, and from the twisted light curtain in the ring, a small purple-gray hand with a pink ring stretched out. With a clear purpose, he grabbed Leo Lu who was in Bai Zi's arms. And then, she saw that Bai Zi was holding the little hand back with a look of incomparable surprise, and then she seemed to feel a little sense, and immediately asked Leo Lu to hold it tight. Then, he quickly got up and packed up. Is this what you're looking for? Kalunai wasn't stupid after all. She quickly recalled it and looked at Bai Zi who quickly packed her bags. Nice. That's it. Bai Zi's expression was delighted, and he didn't even think that Hoopa, who had no clues in a circle, actually brought it to the door and opened a circle in front of his eyes. But, combined with the voice from Hoopa, this little guy is probably in some trouble with Miley. Need a master, is this encountering some difficult elves? The words of the desert. Is it the Dragon King Scorpion? Or, Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot Dragon King Scorpion. His thoughts turned sharply, and Bai Zi, who had guessed the matter, put on his backpack, took out the pokeball and put away the steel-armored crow and the wind speed dog. A thoughtful shot. He directly put the sleeping little girl Catalia under his arm, and then looked at Sister Yu who was beside him. Wait. Karuna stared. But obviously, his arm couldn't twist his thigh, so Bai Zi didn't have time to talk to her about being a gentleman. The burning white thought power was released and withdrawn again. He also took Karuna, and frowned slightly, like Catalia who was about to wake up and caught it in his right arm. Holding Karuna's stomach, Bai Zi finally tightened her arms. Then, he stepped forward and wrapped his arms around Liu Lu's waist, who was about to be pulled back by Hoopa's arm, which was shining with lightning. Go. Liu tilde. Liu Lu immediately relaxed his strength and followed the pulling force of Hoopa's arm, and even Bai Zi and others were pulled directly into the halo. On the other side, the dunes. Looking at the Dragon King Scorpion group that was already about to move, Mei Yali gritted her teeth with a pale face to support the release of energy in her body, and turned her eyes to the side. Hoopa. No matter how bad it is, if the Dragon King Scorpion doesn't rush forward, I can't hold it anymore. The Mayari I know. Hoopa's face also turned red due to the competition, and the tone of the cute cotton tone was slightly deformed. Yes, but the other side kept holding my hand again. Then you can open another door again. Mayali's trembling voice almost came out of his teeth. Yes. A light bulb popped out of Hoopa's head in an instant. Whoops. A moment of relaxation, it was almost pulled over. And this movement. It also seems to be a horn to break the confrontation. Jia. The leading Dragon King Scorpion held its pair of pincers high, and the pincers' tails were stretched straight, and a sharp neigh came out. Jia ya tilde. Ya tilde. Ya tilde. In response to the bursts, the sound of the foot tongs sliding on the sand was heard. And the Dragon King Scorpion in the lead stretched its four legs, and in the next second, it rushed towards Hoopa first. Hoopa! Mayali shouted. And right now. The strength is gone. Hoopa, who was about to open another light wheel, suddenly felt the strength on his arm loosen, and while his eyes were shining, he almost subconsciously pulled his arm. Hoopa, lao lao. Spray, sound. The first thing that emerged from the curved surface inside the ring was a small blue dog's head. Liu Lu. Immediately after. As most of Liu Lu's body appeared, a slender palm was wrapped around Liu Lu's waist, followed by a man and two women huddled together. Jia ya tilde. I'm going. The space changed, and as soon as Bai Zi came out, he saw a huge Dragon King Scorpion swooping towards him with its fangs and claws. Almost subconsciously, he released Liu Lu and twisted his waist at the same time. Under the blessing of burning white thought force, he kicked heavily and slammed on the top of the Dragon King Scorpion's head. Li. At the same time, Liu Lu, who was in midair, raised his claws in midair almost right after him. At the heart of the paw. A blue waveguide quickly condensed and was twisted and thrown by Liu Lu who was in the air. A wave missile. Wave missiles, cut through the night sky. After chasing the leader of the Dragon King Scorpion who was hit by Bai Zi and flew out, he smashed to the ground. Boom. Sand and dust erupted instantly, and 4.3 turned into a huge sand tide surging in all directions. The rolling sand tide came out in a ring with the impact, overturning the nearby Dragon King Scorpions and pincer-tailed scorpions one by one. Knock. Many people who were farther away were also frightened by this natural disaster-like scene and got under the sand for the first time to hide. Bai Zi used his thought power to pull everyone into the air for the first time, and then avoided the impact of the sand waves. Moment. The desert returned to calm, and the system beats sounded one by one. You and Liu Lu worked together to defeat the Dragon King Scorpion. Liu Lu's income is ignored, your kicking skill proficiency +1-2. Liu Lu repelled the group, increased the proficiency of the power of the wave guide, and the proficiency of the wave missile +1. 553. Hoopa, by Z, great man. Please ask. Mong tilde. In a brand new camp, Baizi handed the prepared cup of hot milk tea to Miley. Warm up your body. Thank you. Miley thanked in a low voice and reached out to take it. Baizi smiled. Subsequently, he quickly poured a cup for Karuna and Catalia, and waved them in front of them with his mind power. Karuna took a breath of heat, raised her hand, and took a sip. The elegant gesture that was displayed all the time made Mayari on the side flash a look of admiration. As for Catalia on the other side, at this moment, he was lying on the small square table in front of him, struggling to support his drowsiness. His beautiful eyes narrowed slightly, and he stared in the direction of Baizi with evil eyes. But her eyes are obviously a little wandering, her little head is a little bit, and even the direction is a little bit. To be frank, Catalia, this girl, after her mental power was sealed and she became lethargic, she looked a little naive and not very smart. Just like now. Hoopa fluttered on the left, fluttered on the right, fluttered above, and fluttered down again. 25. After floating for a while, it came close to Baizi's ear, with a small hand in front of his mouth, and whispered, "Good man, why does that woman keep staring at Hoopa?" Great person. This title made Baizi a little dumbfounded. He glanced at Catalia, and replied, "Because she is short-sighted." Myopia. Hoopa blinked, somewhat understanding. Baizi put down what he was doing. Wei Yi leaned on the table, and explained kindly, "It just means that his eyes are not good, and he can't see clearly." Oh tilde. Hoopa suddenly felt like, and immediately wrinkled his face, and said sympathetically, "Then she is so pitiful." Karuna couldn't help but smirk a little. "Okay, let's leave her alone." Baizi tapped on the milk teapot and asked, "How is it? Do you want to try it?" Hoopa was immediately distracted, and curiously circled around the milk teapot. The milky gong-ning sound was very pleasant. "What is this?" "A drink, it tastes very good. Would you like to try it?" Baizi invited again. "Then, try it. Taste it." He tilde. Hoopa took it with a smile, and after taking a big sip, his eyes suddenly lit up. Drink well. Subsequently, after a meal of tun, he drank the milk teacup that was about to be half his size upside down, and floated in front of Baizi again, with both hands. "One more cup." "Good." Baizi poured another glass for the little guy with a smile. This time, the little guy was about to drink, but suddenly his eyes turned to Liu Lu, who was sitting cross-legged not far from Baizi's feet, and flew over. "Do you want to drink?" Hoopa handed the teacup to Liu Lu and asked. Liu Lu, who was meditating, opened one eye slightly, glanced at it casually, and closed it again with a blind eye. "Huh, don't you like it?" Hoopa tilted his head. Then, it blinked suddenly. "That's right. Reach out." Immediately, the ring on the right corner of the chair fluttered away automatically. After slightly expanding, he aligned the ring with Hoopa's palm and spun it in midair. Hoopa, low. In an instant, a chocolate donut smeared with various colored candies fell out of the halo, and was picked up by Hoopa. "What about this? This is Hoopa's favorite. Do you want to try it?" Hoopa's plot donut, as if offering a treasure, handed it to Liu Lu again. However, Liu Lu obviously did not appreciate it. The figure flashed. Next second, it had already appeared on top of a rock, and sat down cross-legged again, and the blue wave guide appeared all over the body, turning into a semicircular bowl, and buckling down, completely separating itself and the rock. Cover. Huh. Hoopa's expression suddenly collapsed. At this time, Miley looked at the donut in Hoopa's hand, and her delicate eyebrows raised slightly. "Who?" When I was about to speak, but found. Baizi had already stood up first and came to Hoopa before swallowing the preaching that he was about to blurt out. "Hoopa, can you let me taste it?" Baizi half squatted in front of Hoopa and stretched out his hand. "Good man, do you want to try it? Hoopa Mengmeng's eyes lit up again, as if her spirit and energy had been retrieved in an instant. Yes. Bai Zi nodded, and while borrowing the donut handed over by Hoopa, he added, also, my name, 8.5.6, 1.0. 9 feet, 7, 8 inches 2 inches, Ling. Long, close black lens bracket called Bai Zi, not a good person. Huh. Hoopa tilted his head, a little puzzled, as the good man called Bai J. But the good man is the good man Bai J. Quote. Forget it, it's up to you. After looking at Hoopa's cute eyes for a long time, Bai Zi was defeated in the end. He gently took a bite of the donut amid the cheers of Hoopa's, Bai J. For a moment. The various ingredients and the cooking knowledge in his mind were compared one by one, which also made Bai Zi quickly decompose the general method of this donut. Then. He nodded in Hoopa's expectant gaze, it tastes good. He tilde. Come on, half of us. After sharing half of the sweets with Hoopa, Bai Zi wiped his hands, sat down casually cross-legged, and waved to Hoopa. Hoopa stepped forward suspiciously. After Bai Zi wiped Hoopa's hands carefully, he put away the towel, took out a 100 union note from his wallet, and said to Hoopa. Hoopa, do you remember the other dimensional hole you opened with the donut just now? Send this over there. Oh. Hoopa was very obedient, and with a flash of light, he swallowed the banknotes. But it obviously didn't understand why it did this. After taking back the golden ring, it let Bai Zi hug it without any resistance. He raised his head and asked, Bai J, why did you send that back? Bai Zi stroked Hoopa's little head and chuckled, that's compensation. Compensation. Yes. Bai Zi nodded and said, 437 inches Hoopa, let me ask you, if you worked so hard to get a donut and someone else took it away before you could eat it, would you be sad? Hoopa thought for a while, then nodded seriously, it will be very sad. The other party is the same. If the donut is taken away by Hoopa, will he be as sad as Hoopa? Bai Zi followed suit. Quote. Will. Hoopa lowered his head and said in a no-no voice, Hoopa is wrong. Then, that colorful paper can make him not sad. Of course, because that allows him to make new donuts. Bai Zi explained, and he rubbed the little cutie with a low expression. So, if you need something in the future, tell me in advance. Oh, can I help Hoopa change it? Hoopa nodded heavily. Subsequently, it slammed onto Bai Zi's neck and slapped Bai Zi's side face. Bai J, he is a great man. Ha ha tilde. Eyes flickered and she glanced at Bai Zi. She attributed the mistakes made by this unknown elf named Hoopa to her own responsibility. Things to bear. So, is the target this kid? P.S. Bai J is not a typo, it's intentional, it's Hoopa. 554. Routine change, ask for complete order. Mr. Bai Zi, he's really a friendly and wise trainer. Mei Yali clasped her hands together with admiration on her face. Yeah, still a good guy who covets your elf. Karuna secretly murmured in her heart. But for some unknown reason, she didn't have the slightest idea to clarify this matter. Pick up the teacup and blow gently. Take another sip. Have to say, the milk tea prepared by this guy is really delicious. As far as her taste is concerned, it is far better than the milk tea styles of many well-known dessert houses. On the other side, after Bai Zi was intimate with the little guy in his arms for a while, he got up and took out a lot of materials he was carrying with him. After showing off his skills, he made a lot of desserts for Hoopa himself. Of course, Hoopa's favorite donut is naturally indispensable. It's a good way to brush up Hoopa's favorability. But obviously, this move obviously stimulated Leo Lu on the side. When Bai Zi scooped up a spoonful of strawberry cake and fed it to Hoopa himself. Whoosh _ Leo Lu, who was still meditating and practicing, rushed to Bai Zi like a blue streamer. He stretched out his little head, and before Hoopa opened his mouth to catch it, he wrapped the bag that Bai Zi handed out. Spoon. Hoopa was dumbfounded. Immediately after. What made it even more dumbfounded was that after Leo Lu swallowed the scoop of strawberry cake, he immediately swept away all the remaining desserts on the table like a swirling cloud. Then he jumped up and put a big cream mark on Bai Zi's side face, and then hung it directly on Bai Zi's neck and couldn't get it down. At the end, I didn't forget to give Hoopa, who was still a little confused, a provocative look. Where can I still see the high cold before? Seeing this, Bai Zi was a little dumbfounded. Have to tilde. Another small vinegar jar. The next day. After storing the tents, tables, blankets, etc. in the camp, put out the fire with sand, and bag the garbage, Bai Zi and the others set off again. Go to Desert City with Miley. Some of. Except for the sleepy Catalia who was put on the back of the wind speed dog, the rest of the people all walked on foot. Bai Zi, who was obviously very anxious in the past, is now uncharacteristically slowly rushing to the desert city, which makes Ka Lunai confirm last night's guess. Bai Zi's goal is this. A group of people. Or. Unknown elf named, Hoopa. Karuna looked at Hoopa, who was having a great time playing with that Leo Lu in Bai Zi's arms. You give me a hug, I'll give you a hug, and her eyes flowed. Speak up. The Leo Lu, who had apparently just passed his infancy, also showed all kinds of miraculous things, and the wind speed dog, whose strength was comparable to her, was comparable to that one. The gigantic Galar steel-armored crow. Bai Zi. I always feel like I've heard this name before tilde. On the other side, after Bai Zi had a conversation with Miley, after a brief chat, the topic suddenly changed and he asked, Ms. Miley, apart from Hoopa, you haven't subdued the spirits. Spirit. Hoopa is not my elf, we grew up together like family. Miley hurriedly waved his hand and explained. Subsequently. She replied to Bai Zi. As for conquering elves, I have been living with my brother in my hometown, the Valley of Creation, where people basically live with elves, and few people go to collect them. Serving elves, so do I. Oh, by the way, my brother Balza took a warrior eagle and a sun rock for training because he was going out to find the jug of punishment that liberates Hoopa's power. Exercise at home. The girl obviously had a high degree of trust in Bai Zi, or in other words, she was not too defensive, so she easily revealed the secrets about Hoopa. The power to liberate Hoopa. The pot of punishment. Bai Zi pretended to be puzzled. Seeing Bai Zi's inquiry, Miley quickly told everything about Hoopa and the seal. Because of this seal, Hoopa's power is not exhausted. He can't pass through the halo he made. Hoopa is very lost. Hoopa also followed Yao and raised her head. Is that so? Bai Zi nodded. And Leo Lu in his arms saw this, frowned slightly for a moment, put his claws on Hoopa's shoulders, and shouted encouragingly. Leo, Leo, are you comforting Hoopa? Hoopa came and went quickly when he was lost. Hearing Leo Lu's comfort, he immediately hugged Leo Lu with his backhand. Thank you, Hoopa is very happy. But next second, it was pushed away by the disgusting Leoru. Seeing this, Miley burst into laughter. Bai Zi couldn't help but twitch his lips. But in any case, I still recommend that you subdue some elves. Facing Miley's doubtful eyes, Bai Zi made an analogy. Like last night, what if Hoopa didn't summon us in time? Or maybe Hoopa isn't around, or maybe Hoopa needs help too. Aren't you going to be helpless? Bai Zi was getting a vaccination. Miley hesitated a little, but thinking of his powerlessness in the scene last night, how good Zhao, he hesitated again. Quite a while. She said, but, if I conquer the elves now, I don't even have a pokeball. It's okay, it's all on me. Bai Zi raised the corner of his mouth, grabbed Mei Yali's left hand, wrapped his thoughts, and took the girl who hadn't reacted to flying towards the dune on the left side of the sun. Ka Luna, you wait in place for a while, we'll be back when we go. The lingering sound is faint. This guy. Before she could finish her words, Sister Yu, who rolled her eyes. Whoa. Accompanied by a very penetrating neigh, the next second, a huge shadow suddenly rose from the sky, covering the blazing sun above Karuna's head. 555. On the day of returning from breaking through Jushao, when the divine needle smashes the heavenly palace. Generally, when traveling, riding elves on water, land and air are essential, and in the desert, the best riding elves on land are the hippo beasts. Mengtilda looked there. In the shade of the sand dunes, Baizi pulled Miley to hover in midair, and stretched out his hand to point to a desert basin surrounded by 3 arched dunes ahead. Within the basin, more than a dozen large, khaki-colored hippos with camouflage-like camouflage all over their bodies, arched to and fro on the sand, spewing tiny sand pillars from each other's backs from time to time, and had a lot of fun. Happy. These are the unevolved forms of the hippopotamus, the sand hippopotamus. As for the hippopotamus, the pair of bowl-sized holes on the ground are actually the nostrils of the hippopotamus. The hippopotamus usually likes to bury its entire body in the sand, so it exposes its nostrils. Breathe on the ground. Viewed from above, there are a total of 7 pairs of holes in the entire basin. That is to say, there are a total of 7 hippo beasts in this group. In terms of the group habits of hippo beasts, there should be 1 male parent and 437 female mates. Hippopotamus. As a child of the desert, Miley immediately understood what Baizi meant. Is it because of the Dragon King Scorpion? As a few cruel, desert devil, Dragon King scorpions that attack in groups of passengers and pedestrians, in addition to confronting them with absolute strength. The best way, of course, is to own a hippopotamus. The fear that is engraved in the genes makes any ferocious and fierce Dragon King scorpion behave very docile in front of the hippo beast. Not only that, Baizi shook his head and said, hippo beasts have the ability to walk on the ground in quicksand, and the power of sand contained in the holes in their bodies is enough to fight sandstorms. Quicksand, sandstorms, Dragon King scorpions. Having a hippo beast, the dreaded 3 plagues of the desert, are no longer an obstacle. It is almost equivalent to being unimpeded in the desert. And the hippo beasts are not slow in the sand, and their special, swimming in the sand, skills are completely comparable to a sand truck at full speed. CFED, what do you think? Saying that, Baizi turned his gaze to the girl beside him. It's okay, it's okay. Mayali's expression was still a little hesitant. She stretched out her hand to close the bangs in her ear, and said, but the hippo beast's personality is impulsive and irritable, and it is difficult to tame it. There are elves to fight. Didn't I say it? None of this is a problem. Baizi interrupted with a chuckle. Raise your hand. Slam, la. A quicksand next to his feet suddenly surged, and soon, a palm-sized orange stone crab was ingested by the burning white thought force with its teeth and claws. This is a stone crab. The stone crab without a stone house almost made Miley not recognize it. Yes. Baizi nodded, took out a jar of queen honey and handed it to Miley, motioning her to feed the stone crab. Although Miley was puzzled, he still took the honey jar obediently. He opened it, dug out a large spoonful, and handed it to the Shiju crab, who was struggling and pretending to be dead. Mellow honey just got close. Next second, the Shiju crab, who was lying on the corpse, immediately regained his energy, and once again embraced the spoon with his claws, and began to suck it up. Stone crab, beginner, level 12, 25 100ths. A little guy. Baizi glanced at Shiju crab, released his mind power, and let the little guy fall into Miley's hands, and continued. Like most insect elves, stone-dwelling crabs with insect properties have no resistance to sugar, and a little sweet tooth can easily gain this little guy's favor. And because of the special symbiotic relationship, the hippopotamus won't hurt the stone crab that can help it clean up the holes and rocks. Not only will they not harm them, but most of the time, the hippopotamus will even take the initiative to shelter the rock-dwelling crabs, allowing the rock-dwelling crabs who can't find suitable stones to live in their holes. Therefore, as long as you successfully conquer and own a stone crab, it will be enough to make a hippo beast without a symbiotic relationship obey you. As predicted. After Mei ate a meal of honey, the little guy burped a full stomach and made a body trip, aiming his belly at Miley. It seems that it has identified you. Subdue it, and then go find it a mobile fortress. With a light smile, he handed the flame monkey and 2 other vacant luxury balls to Miley's hand, briefly explaining several skills of his flame monkey. Then, Baizi glanced around and pointed to the pair of holes in the left corner. That guy is good, I personally recommend it. The elite peak hippo beast with the quasi-king aptitude is also one of the best in this group, second only to the mid-level hippo beast commander of the quasi-king. That's it. The girl nodded without hesitation. At this moment, Miley had already been conquered by Baizi's unhurried spontaneity, and he had no doubts about Baizi's proposal. Good. Nodding, Baizi stretched out his hand and waved. Next second, Miley appeared in a corner of a desert basin surrounded by sand dunes. Whoa! Sand churns. The hippo beasts in the basin were about to make a change, and then immediately. Hey tilde yay! Accompanied by a low roar, the blazing flames suddenly condensed into a pillar of fire that was narrow at the bottom and wide at the top, and was held by the flame monkey below. In Miley's stunned look. A sweep. With her as the center, I will strike at the hippo beasts and sand hippos that surround me. I want, strike them all. Flame vortex Chenkin as a stick. Boom. Flames and sandstorms rose from the desert basin, and the penetrating roar of the flaming monkey made Baizi's mouth twitch. On the day of returning from breaking through Jushao, when the divine needle smashed the heavenly palace. 556. Exceptional. The capital of the devil. Change, ask. There's no way to save this monkey. Baizi couldn't help but stroke his forehead slightly. But, such a degree of flame condensing and breath. As if sensing something, the unseen brilliance in Baizi's eyes suddenly flickered. Next second, one by one. Open black lens bracket race. Flame monkey 3 close black lens bracket. Attribute, fire fighting. Characteristics, fierce fire, iron fist Monty. Exceptional exclusive characteristics. When the will and mind reach a certain limit, they can ignore the breakthrough of common sense, and even nirvana. Level, beginner king of heaven, level 60, 15/1/00. Potential, champion 3 transformations, transformation. HP, 76, attack, 104, defense, 71, special attack, 104, special defense, 71, speed, 108. Open black lens bracket skill, slightly. Close black lens bracket. Genetic skills, chi gathering, lightning fist. Status, perfect. Introduction. One of the fire masters who has undertaken a fateful fate. The will in his heart is like a flame. The hot heart is enough to cause miracles, and he has extraordinary power, which is an unquestionable effort power genius. Sure enough, are you catching up again? Facing the strength jump of the flaming monkey, which can be called a triple jump, Baizi's eyes were surprised at all. Possessing a perverted exclusive feature that is enough to rank in the top 3 even with Baizi's vision, which is exceptional. As long as the flame monkey has activated the characteristics, it is normal to jump no matter how. Not to mention, although this flaming monkey was raised a little crooked in Baizi's hands. But in essence, it is still the big brother who never admits defeat and has the courage to challenge everything. But, with the continuous adventures in Baizi's hands, although the flaming monkey worked hard enough, almost all of Baizi's hands were Scroll Kings. Therefore, gradually, the strength of it and the large army has not decreased, but has increased. In addition to the fostered little Lugia, there is also little Kapu Mingming, who has not yet fully passed his infancy, aiming at the wind speed dog, and wants to become the second main fire-type flame monkey in the Baizi team. Discover. It turned out to be the weakest one. The sense of urgency that seems to be completely thrown away by the large army at any time is constantly urging the heart of the flame monkey. Baizi knew this. If you change to a wizard. He has already done a series of actions such as comforting his mind and helping to find attribute treasures, brushing experience points, and opening a small stove. And in fact, before he left Mishima, he went to search for the treasures of the 3 divine birds, and there was no shortage of Baizi, a fire-type artifact. Geocentric flowing flame, that is bred by volcanoes and enhances the fire attribute factor, or the high-quality fire attribute crystals born from the long-term residence of the firebird. These are enough to make the flaming monkey ask for a relatively slow predicament. But Baizi didn't move. Even Mishima's income was basically fed to Xiao Kapu Mingming, or used on Ibrahimovich's body to enhance its attribute form power. That's why. It was Baizi who wanted to see whether, under such helpless pressure, the flaming monkey could once again stimulate the power of the exclusive characteristic, exceptional. And the result, the mind and will of the flaming monkey did not disappoint him, nor did the exceptional characteristic. That's right. Baizi suddenly remembered that he had been busy brushing up on Hoopa's favor and preparing for the kidnapping of Hoopa, which made him forget to check Hoopa's attribute panel for a while. Taking advantage of the situation, he retracted his gaze towards the flaming monkey that swept away the entire hippopotamus group in the desert valley. He lowered his head slightly and looked at Hoopa, who was pulling with Liu Lu on his left. Eyes flickering. Next second, Baizi's originally steady breathing suddenly stagnated. Race, Hoopa punishment form, liberation form, sealed. Attribute, super ghost. Characteristic, magician, the item that can take away the opponent hit by the move. Level, elite height level 32, 0/100. Potential, creation level. HP, 80, attack, 110/160, defense, 60, special attack, 150/170, special defense, 130, speed, 70/80. Exclusive skills, different dimension cave, different dimension slam. ... For flowers. Skills, conjuring, same fate, swapping venues, psychic power, fright, magic reflection, illusionary light, shadow ball, strong mind, evil fluctuation. Status, good, lack of strength. Power, dimension restriction. Introduction, the only dimensional demon god in the multi-dimensional time and space of the elves, the born dimensional controller, has the potential to connect and close the multi-worlds. Attributes, characteristics, race values, including status levels, Baizi had already expected it. As for the power, dimension. With the unremarkable messenger bird Zuyu in front, Baizi was not too surprised. But creation level, in the column. Hoopa. This little devil, who was really defying the sky in the original book, turned out to be a glorious god, who surpassed the alien poison dragon, Wuji Taina in terms of qualifications and possessed the personality of the god of creation. The Genesis potential owner of Necrozma. You must know that the Dark Super Dream, which is regarded as an enemy by Baizi, is only promoted to the creation level with the blessing of the Dark Resonance Stone. As a result, Hoopa was born. Baizi couldn't help shaking his heart. This is also the first time he has seen the potential owner of the creation level. Originally, the more Baizi knew about the creation level, the more he knew about the rank in his heart. He thought that the natural owner of this rank might only be Arzu. Owned. As for Hoopa, his original estimate was at most comparable to Lai Kongzai's first-level god limit. But who would have thought that Hoopa would be the owner of the second, creation level, potential after his continuation of darkness? However, according to the statement in the introduction column, Hoopa is the only dimensional demon god in the entire multi-dimensional space-time, a natural dimensional controller, and has the potential to connect and close the multi-world. In this evaluation, it does match the supreme qualification of the creation level. ... Beg _ 557. The gaze from Arceus. Unexpectedly. And now that I think about it, Hoopa just lightly completed a punishment in the sense of a so-called punishment, and even directly alarmed Arceus. Sanlong, who can almost be regarded as Arceus' own son, was beaten to death at every turn, but he never saw Arceus come out to mediate. Comparing the two, it can be clearly seen that Arceus attaches great importance to Hoopa, probably far more than Xianao Sanlong, who is a descendant of the third direct line. Looking back on this kind of treatment now, I can't help but make Baizi think about it. Perhaps, Hoopa was under the attention of Arceus from the very beginning. This conjecture made Baizi's scalp tingle for a moment. Because this will mean that he is likely to fall into the line of sight of Arceus at this moment. With the rise of this idea, for Sanchi, Baizi's heart couldn't help beating violently. Twice. The more you know, the more you will know awe. Rather than coincidentally. Before passing through, Baizi just caught up with the release of the new Pokemon game, Pokemon Legend, Arceus. Although he crossed before he had time to play, Baizi had already understood the Pokemon worldview by hearsay. Brand new patch for Arceus. The current Arceus is just a clone in this universe, and his main body is beyond the universe, guarding all parallel universes at the same time. Even whether he has an entity is still unknown. With the addition of this patch, the ceiling of the Pokemon world was instantly lifted to the multi-level by Arceus alone. At the same time, it also raised Baizi's estimate of the creation level. This moment. Such a picture appeared in Baizi's mind almost subconsciously. In the icy and boundless void, an immeasurable body of the Holy Spirit floated around like bubbles. The world. And this moment. The gaze of the Holy Spirit passed through one of the bubbles, and fell directly on a water-blue planet, above a desert, hugging Hoopa's own body. Mr. Baizi. At this moment, the distant shouts interrupted Baizi's thoughts. Raising his head, Miley, who was sitting on the back of a hippo beast with a body length of more than 2 meters, was waving in his direction with a smile on his face. Behind her, there is a flaming monkey with a flame stick in his hand and a flaming turtle flying in the air behind him. Congratulations. Baizi converged his thoughts, nodded to Miley, and then took out a fire energy block and flicked it in the direction of the flame monkey. Well done. Snapped Tilda. The flaming monkey stretched out his hand, took the energy cube in his hand, took a bite, chewed it, and his eyes gradually became confused. Hey. Not finished. Next second. A whoosh of red light shone directly on its body, storing the flaming monkey back into the Pokeball. Click tilde. Closing, locking, shrinking. After a set of flowing clouds and flowing water, Baizi directly retracted the quivering elf ball back to the elf belt. Miley, who approached on the hippo beast, blinked a little suspiciously, but she didn't say much about it. After jumping off the back of the hippo beast, she thanked Baizi with a smile. Mr. Baizi, thank you. It doesn't matter. Baizi shook his head and glanced at Hoopa, who was introducing himself to the hippo beast. Eyes flashed. Immediately, he asked Miley with a chuckle, I am afraid that the waterway will have to go to the seaside of the desert city. Do you have any requirements for the flying elves? Follow. Miley was going to say, casual, but recalling the heroic appearance of the flaming monkey before, he curled his hair, and said a little embarrassedly, that. The fire element may I? Fire element. Baizi pondered for a while and suggested, how about the fierce arrow eagle? Saying that, Baizi turned on the projection function of the elf bracelet and mapped the virtual body of the fierce eagle. The fierce arrow eagle has the dual attributes of fire and flying, with a speed of up to 500 per hour, and its wingspan is generally between 4 and 6 meters. Baizi introduced. After speaking for a while, he found that there was no movement at all, and when he turned his head, he met Miley's gaze staring at him dazedly. Mayari, Miley. Huh. After calling twice, Miley woke up like a dream, and Baizi asked, why, are you not satisfied? Huh. Mayali was still a little stunned, and then, after Baizi asked again, her cheeks flushed, and her hands waved again and again. No, fierce arrow eagle is very good, very good. As he spoke, his voice became smaller. He turned his head slightly, and concealed the increasingly rosy complexion on his face. That's it. Baizi didn't care either. Subsequently, using the familiar hippo beast, the two found a nearby hidden oasis. Fierce arrow eagles are widely distributed in the whole territory of Carlos, and there are also traces of it in the desert. And what is most likely to make them stay for a short time is naturally the few oases in the desert that can replenish water sources. What followed was not unexpected to Baizi. There were a lot of elves collecting water near the oasis. Luckily, the two of Baizi just arrived at this water source gathering place. A fierce arrow eagle just happened to volley too. Then, after helping Miley subdue the fierce arrow eagle with the hidden characteristics of wings of the wind, the two of them returned to the original path after the harvest was full. Reunited with Karuna and Catalia, and they set off again. Along the way, although Baizejian delayed the time, it took 3 full days to stop and go, but when they arrived at the desert city again. In the desert of sand 4.3, look for Balza, the jug of retribution, that seals the evil power of Hoopa. But still can't make it back. I hope my Baizi's power can directly act on the Hoopa shadow power in the pot of punishment, otherwise once a war breaks out in the city, the consequences will be unimaginable. Baizi pondered in his heart. And right now. Wow! Accompanied by a high-pitched eagle cry that pierced through clouds and cracked stones, in an instant, Baizi only felt a burst of cold air suddenly rushed up the back of his head. P.S. The game setting patch of Arceus, I feel that it is similar to the setting of Arceus in the finale of my last book, Dare. JGP. 558. Obliterate the power, the attacking Lucario. Dong dong. At the same time, Hoopa, who was nestled in Baizi's arms, seemed to have suddenly sensed something that made him extremely frightened. His heart was beating wildly, and he buried his small head in Baizi tremblingly. In the arms. Baizi suddenly turned his head and looked at the sky. Karuna and the others also turned around. Follow closely. Whoa, whoa tilde. In the eagle's cry, which was quickly pulled and gradually became clear, a young man with a red scarf and a red robe, dressed in a similar appearance to Miley, rode a warrior eagle circling. And down. It landed in front of a city sightseeing fountain pool not far from the crowd. It came at this time. Baizi's eyes narrowed slightly. You found it. You found the jug of retribution. At the same time, after seeing that it was her brother Balza who came, Miley immediately stepped forward with a look of joy. However, just as she took the first step, she was stopped by Baizi raising his arm. Miley, pay attention to your brother's eyes, and Hoopa seems to be quite afraid of the jug of punishment. 25. I'm afraid this is not a good manifestation. This. Miley stopped immediately. Now the weight of Baizi's words has long been important in Miley's heart. And through her observation, she did quickly discover that her brother and Hoopa were wrong. The evil red glow in Balza's eyes was not like ordinary people can have. The obvious fear shown by Hoopa. What is this? Miley looked bewildered. And right now. Jug of punishment, with a lot of Hoopa physique in his hands after he took the warrior eagle back to the Pokeball. Aim it in Hoopa's direction. _. The holes on the pot that looked like eyes suddenly released a dark reddish-purple light. Immediately afterwards, Hoopa let out a painful whimper as if he was feeling it, and a dark red halo appeared all over his body. All this happened very quickly. Balza, who was controlled by Hoopa's evil shadow, was not like the villain who died in the movies. On the contrary, it was astonishingly decisive. The pot of punishment. At Hoopa, he raised his hand and twisted it towards the lid. Balza's actions are straightforward. But Baizi's mind power is obviously faster. Before Balza could touch the lid of the pot of retribution, the burning white thought force immediately covered Balza's body, trying to hold it in place. But what Ling Baizi didn't expect was his mind power just bound Balza. Available in the next second. An aura of fury erupted from the jug of punishment, in his hand, instantly expelling Baizi's thought power. Humph tilde. The pain of acupuncture in the brain caused Baizi's thought power to collapse immediately. And then, just as he sensed that someone was trying to prevent it from breaking out of the seal, the controlled Baizi's expression suddenly became extremely hideous. The original action of unscrewing the lid of the pot suddenly turned into a violent fall to the ground. Not good. Baizi's eyes jumped, and before he had time to think about it, he directly pushed Hupolian and Leo Lu into Miley's arms beside him. Next second, his figure instantly appeared in front of Baizi. Baizi power, within the body surged wildly, turning into a white halo that condensed out and wrapped around the palm of the hand. Pot of retribution, that had already escaped from Baizi's palm and fell to the ground. Not yet touched. Adjacent, the already entangled, power of Baizi, and, pot of retribution, eroded and dissolved each other like a chemical reaction. But the energy level gap that was almost visible to the naked eye caused the power of Baizi to retreat in an instant. Before Baizi could really grasp the jug of punishment, the translucent white halo in his palm that was thick enough to be substantive had long since melted away. All of a sudden, violent warning signs exploded in his mind. The stinging pain caused by this strong sense of crisis made Baizi almost faint, and at the same time, his body almost instinctively pulled the outstretched palm into his arms. Moment. Pop 1. The porcelain pot fell to the ground and shattered. Hu tilde. Along with the sudden shattering of the pot of punishment, in the low roar, a billowing red smoke shot out from it, and rushed towards Hoopa in Miley's arms. Wu tilde. The first to react was the wind speed dog who was still holding Catalia. Like an orange-red streamer, it circled in front of everyone. Between the canines, mixed with the lingering firelight, he kissed the oncoming red mist, and bit it. Burning fire teeth. Click tilde. The fire started. Fire tooth, which contains the power of burning, seems to be biting on the invisible shadow, which is enough to instantly vaporize the power of flame that does not melt ice fake. Through by the red fog. Subsequently, he slammed into Miley's arms, who had been unable to dodge, and it seemed to be the body of Hoopa, who had been frightened. And right now, Lee, an equally petite blue body suddenly jumped up, like a blue lightning, hugged Hoopa and jumped up from Miley's arms, rolled off the ground, and stood up again. Immediately after, the azure waveguide comes out through the body. But it was as if a layer of white light appeared on the surface of the blue waveguide. The special waveguide intertwined with blue and white burst into flames from Leoru's petite body. With the red mist that Hoopa's evil shadow turned into, it rushed again. In the light, the man-wolf, which was quickly raised and enlarged, sank his waist and immediately threw out a 437 right uppercut that ripped apart the wind. Bird close combat. Lala. Just like the snow and ice touched by a branding iron, the red fog that made Fengsu Dog completely helpless was instantly melted away wherever the boxing went. Hu tilde pa. In the short screams, the group of red fog suddenly flew out dozens of meters away as if being scorched by fire. Subsequently, only in a whirlwind of fog, it turned into a liberating Hoopa form with 3 arms and 6 rings. Evil Shadow, transformed by Hoopa's sealed power. And this moment, Evil Shadow, who had not suffered much trauma, looked at the opposite side with a solemn face, and did not dare to step forward for a while. Because, if the pot of punishment brings its seal suppression and Baizi's neutralization and purification, then what this guy in front of him contains is the killing power like its nemesis. Quantity. That terrifying sensation that melts on the touch. Order, Evil Shadow, Hoopa. At this moment, I still have lingering fears. At this time, the flame is fading away, with blue, yellow, red and black colors. In the slender man's arrogant position, the hair like long braids is windless and automatic, indifferent red eyes, with an inexplicable chill. It is the way in the mega form. Cleo. P.S. Lucario is so handsome. 559. The battlefield of multiple legends, the cave of different dimensions. Okay, that's awesome. Looking at Lucario, who was standing in front of him, the proudly standing figure was deeply remembered by Hoopa at this moment. But next second. Luca tilde. As Lucario's face flashed a painful color, the blue and white arrogance surrounding his body suddenly flashed again and again like a broken line. Immediately after, with a short exclamation of pain, Lucario suddenly fell to his knees. An evolution-like white light burst forth. Soon, Lucario withdrew from the super evolution in a flash of light, and gradually degenerated into the form of Riolu in the fading light. Leo. Little Hoopa's milky cry sounded, and she rushed to pick up Riolu, who had fallen softly to the ground. Hoopa is the strongest. Evil shadow. Hoopa's face of fear disappeared visibly to the naked eye. No. Little Hoopa didn't know where the courage came from, and loudly retorted to Evil shadow, Hoopa, Leo is the strongest. You were obviously defeated. Hoopa, it can't be defeated. Evil shadow, Hoopa was immediately angered by the words of Xiao Hoopa, and the low roar was mixed with the gust of wind caused by the huge energy level. In the scarlet eyes, malice gradually gathered like substance. It stared at little Hoopa, and then swept to Riolu in the other's arms, and this guy. You, all disappear for me. In a roar. A dark black spiral sphere was quickly condensed at the hole in the chest of Evil shadow, Hoopa. And just when it was about to release this wave of evil roar, the tyrannical dragon's roar suddenly burst out from its ears, and then, Evil shadow, Hoopa felt as if he had been hit head-on by a high-speed locomotive. The intense pain and the domineering energy level that penetrated directly into the body caused a brief blank in its consciousness. The whirring of the wind passed by. In between. Boom. Evil shadow, Hoopa was smashed and flew into the unfinished building complex. The smoke rose, the rocks rolled, and it was completely buried in the blink of an eye. And the direction where Evil shadow, Hoopa was originally located. A black Lycong with a body length of nearly 10 meters is sitting encircling. On the slender dragon tail, the dragon attribute energy factor of Zon-Z gradually dissipates. Wide area destruction. Open black lens bracket fear. JPG close black lens bracket. Little Hoopa looked at the slender dragon body in front of him, and the petite body couldn't help shaking. However, when he saw the silhouette of Hei Likong sitting behind him, stroking his forehead and standing up slightly, his expression suddenly became happy. Sit empty. He flew towards the direction of the figure. By J tilde. A tilde. By Z, who had finally relieved his headache, was bumped by Hoopa, and he couldn't help showing a pained expression, and was almost stunned by the bump. You little guy. He put his arms around Hoopa and Riolu, who was dragged in his arms, and checked Riolu's state. Bai Zi, who found that he was only losing his strength, immediately rubbed little Hoopa's little head in annoyance. Speak up. He really did not expect the power Riolu showed just now. That kind of absolute restraint on the energy of Evil shadow, Hoopa, even if Bai Zi thinks about it now, he can't help but stunned. If the strength of the two sides is not much different, I am afraid that Evil shadow, Hoopa will be beaten by Lucario with all his strength. Dark killers, in a sense, or really scary characteristics. Bai Zi couldn't help but sigh. The reason for Riolu's change is obviously not hard to guess. But the only pity is that I was in poor condition just now, and I failed to observe the attributes of Riolu when it temporarily evolved into a Super Lucario form after the outbreak. Lala. In the distance, the ruins that buried Evil shadow, Hoopa were turning over. Bai Zi rolled his eyes. First, he took Riolu, who was unconscious in his arms, back into the Pokeball. Then, after thinking for a while, he stared in the direction of the ruins without turning his head, and said solemnly. Feng Speed Dog, release the seal. Wu tilde. Catalya's Wind Speed Dog, who frowned tightly, as if in a nightmare, but still did not wake up, groaned. The flame rune above his forehead lights up. Immediately after, Karuna, who noticed the movement of her pokeball, immediately took out the luxurious ball from her waist. Next second. Click tilde. In the white light, Shinado with a mega stone decoration appeared in an instant and stopped in front of Karuna. Karuna shook her head and walked out from behind Shinado, staring at Baizi's back. Baizi, this is you. Miss Karuna, this is going to be the battlefield of several top legends. What you need to do now is to take them away, contact the desert city officials, and disperse the citizens. Baizi interrupted. I will let the wind speed dog follow you temporarily, as a riding elf, and Miss Catalia also entrusted you to take care of it temporarily. Then, jug of punishment, on the ground. At the same time, a elf ball escaped from Baizi's waist and floated to Miley, who was supporting Balza. In front of siblings. Mr. Baizi. Miley opened her mouth, but was also interrupted by Baizi. The Pokeball contains Laplace, the main force of my water system. Now, let's go to recast the Jug of Retribution. Rest assured, I will remake the Jug of Retribution before you remake it. Let the evil shadow lose the ability to resist. Okay everyone. The next time is my time. I will try my best to pull the battlefield to the city. Crash, are you okay, Zhao? Hu tilde pa. In the ruins not far away, the sand and stones rolled more and more violently, and in an instant, the evil shadow, Hoopa suddenly drilled out of it and let out an angry roar. 6 arms fluttered in the air, and 6 rings suddenly fell off one by one from its wrist. Hoopa, fish, all. Quote. King sound. Baizi stopped talking for a moment, and then fell on the back of a blue wolf-shaped elf that was deformed by the white light shot from his waist. Whoosh _. Needless to say, Kang Xiang has suddenly thrown out. And Baizi, who bowed slightly and sat on Kang Zhang's back, quickly approached, and hurriedly ordered, Hoopa, use the different dimension hole. P.S. I recommend a good brother's new book. Haihua Tai. Join the chat group, the writing is great tilde. 560. Coming on stage one after another, pushing the boat with the flow. Heavy rain and drought. Evil shadow, Hoopa's pure combat power is actually not too strong for Baizi. Before taking advantage of the gap between Lai Kong and attacking the opponent, Baizi had already probed the opponent's data panel. The general ability value is the same as that of the body's little Hoopa. Only the introduction column is different and the level is higher. But it is only worthy of reaching the level of a first-level god, level 106. It is the weakest among the top legends that Baizi has seen so far, even weaker than the White Dragon Reshiram. Certainly. Seriously, Hoopa should be classified as in Eudemons. Moreover, because of the restriction of discipline, Hoopa, evil shadow who also cannot pass through the halo. But even so, very vigilant about the opponent's exclusive skill, different dimension cave. After all, although he is ready for a head-to-head chaotic battle with multiple legends. But Baizi is not a battle maniac who has been carried away. Obviously it is impossible to let the evil shadow in the field. With Baizi's order. Look at me. The degree of difficulty has also been greatly reduced. Hoopa used the aperture to summon helpers. Xiao Hoopa, who was nestled in Baizi's arms, looked eager to try. With a wave of his little hand, all the 3 rings on his arms, including his waist, fell off. The evil shadow, emitting 6-colored light. It turned into 3 rings of the same size, and overlapped with the 437 rings made by the evil shadow. At the same time, Lai Kong's eye seems to be drawn into a black flowing shadow in the setting sun. Mouth pung, hum _. The dragon tail swung and swept the golden ring with a fierce blow. The golden ring trembled. The space inside it seems to be unaffected at all, and different sounds are heard at the same time as the other 6 rings. Subsequently, a blue 4-legged dragon beast with a silver-white metal diamond flew out of the ring. Ya tilde. At the sky and hissing, it is one of the 3 divine dragons with titles such as Diamond Beast and God of Time, Dialga. Race, Dialga. Attribute, Steel Dragon. Characteristics, sense of oppression, telepathy, Monty, can read one's own attacks and evade the damage caused by his moves in advance. Level, Level 1 God Peak, Level 119, 15/100. Potential, Level 1 God. HP, 100, Attack, 120, Defense, 120, Special Attack, 150, Special Defense, 100, Speed, 90. Exclusive skill, Roar of Time. Skills, Metal Claw, Dragon Breath, Primal Power, Split, Cannon, Power Gem, Metal Explosion. Law Comprehension, Steel 95%. Open Black Lens Bracket Authority, Time Close Black Lens Bracket. Status, Good, evil thoughts or magnifying can be lifted at any time. Introduction. According to legend, due to the birth of Dialga, time began to flow, and it has the ability to manipulate the flow of time. It has undergone morphological changes in ancient times for unknown reasons, and it is part of the continuation of the creation god, Arceus' own power. Close Black Lens Bracket. With the advent of Dialga, 5 additional light wheels. In the 3 light wheels that were also covered by little hoopas, different dimension hole, trick, the elves who were summoned from them were just rushed out and were again sent to where by little hoopas, light wheels, inside. And the remaining 2. Amidst the waves and heavy footsteps. A huge blue whale and a crimson dragon beast with lava flowing all over its body leapt and walked out of the 2 apertures, respectively. It is the god of the sea, Kyogre, and the god of flightless, Groudon. And these 2 guys. All in their original state of return. Woo tilde. Kyogre got out of the light wheel, he fluttered his wings, flapping his pair of wings like flying wings, and hovered in the air. And Groudon took it a step further. Boom. The huge body suddenly plummeted down, smashing to the ground heavily, stirring up dust all over the sky. Race, Gyoka, original return. Attribute, Water. Characteristic, Sea of Origin, exclusive, becomes weather that will not be damaged by fire attribute attacks. Level, Level 1 God Peak, Level 119, 99/100. Potential, Level 1 God, Extreme. HP, 100, Attack, 150, 100 Defense, 90, Special Attack, 181 CFED, 50 Special Defense, 160, 140 Speed, 90. The brackets are in normal form race value. Exclusive skill, Root Fluctuation. Skills, Wave of Water, Frozen Beam, Absolute Zero, Water Cannon, Water Spray. Law Comprehension, Water 100%. Open Black Lens Bracket Authority, Ocean Close Black Lens Bracket. Status, Good, evil thoughts or magnifying can be lifted at any time. Introduction. The creator of the ocean, the incarnation of the concept of planetary oceans, the ancients who were born with perfect water rules, and died together with the ocean. Race, Groudon, original return. Attribute, Ground, Fire. Characteristic, Ending Land, exclusive, becomes weather that will not be damaged by water attribute attacks. Level, Level 1 God Peak, Level 119, 99/100. Potential, Level 1 God, Extreme. Open Black Lens Bracket HP, 100, Attack 180, 100 Defense, 160, 140, Special Attack, 150. Exclusive skill, Sword of the Cliff. Skills, Primordial Power, Earth Power, Earthquake, Arm Hammer, Big Character Explosion, Spitfire. Ellipsis. Closing square bracket. 100, Special Defense, 90, Speed, 90. 1. Law Comprehension, Ground System 100%. Open Black Lens Bracket Authority, the Earth Close Black Lens Bracket. Status: good, evil thoughts or magnifying, can be lifted at any time. Introduction: the creator of the earth, the incarnation of the concept of the planet and earth, the ancient who was born with perfect ground-based rules, and died together with the earth. Status: column of the 3 legendary elves. Baizi couldn't help but narrow his eyes. He was a little weird at first. Even if Hoopa is really talented, can he really control 6 of them in one breath with his evil thoughts, which is not inferior to its top legend? If this is the case, then Hoopa is really too perverted, and other top legends are too exaggerated, and there is no force. And now it seems. Shadow, Hoopa's abilities may have an effect on them all. But the reason why these guys are like this, perhaps, is purely playing on the topic. At this moment, all kinds of thoughts flashed in Baizi's mind. But at this time, Baizi was no longer allowed to think too much. In the field. Unlike Dialga's only faint time ripples, the appearances of Kyogre and Groudon in the original state of return are huge. Taking the middle of the two as the dividing point, the whole world seems to be divided into 2. On the left side of Gyoka, the sky is covered with dark clouds, and the pouring rain pours down and spreads out, and even the original sand and dust gradually become muddy, and the hurricane and rainstorm hit the earth. And it's the opposite. Right. The place where Groudon stood was raging with flames, the ground was charred and cracked, and it seemed like a big sun had fallen above his head, and the strong sunlight would illuminate the desert city at dusk.